Call this meeting to order. Okay, that means quit talking. Thank you. That's it. Ladies and gentlemen, we're calling this meeting to order. I'm asking you to please be quiet. If you need to talk, please go outside the meeting room and conduct your conversations outside. Thank you very much. This is a workshop of the Northern Turnpike Extension. I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll, and then I will go over the rules of the meeting. Okay, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
This is a public workshop of the Citrus County Board of County Commissioners. This 24th day of May, 2022. In attendance are Chairman Ronald E. Kitchen Jr., First Vice Chair Ruthie Sabaugh, Second Vice Chair Holly Davis, Commissioner Scott Carnahan and Jeff Kennard, County Administrator Randy Oliver, and County Attorney Denise A. Diamond-Lynn.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're glad everybody's here today. Let me go over a couple things. The way we're going to conduct our workshop today is we are going to have a presentation from the Florida Department of Transportation, and they're going to give us their presentation, and after that time the commissioners may have questions of them, and then after that we will open this up to public hearing and to hear what everybody has to say. What I would ask you is what we typically do here is, one, we ask you to follow proper decorum and civility, which means no cheering, no booing, no applauding, no jumping up and down, okay? Be courteous of the people speaking so that when you're speaking, they'll be courteous to you. Also, when you come up to speak, please give us your name very first thing, and if you haven't done so, fill out a green card and give to the clerk so we'll have a record of who was here to speak. We give everyone 3 minutes. If you have a letter on file with the clerk authorizing you to speak for you. If you have a letter on file with the clerk giving you authorization from your group to speak, then you can ask for 5 minutes, okay? You will be asked to sit down, watch the timer on the counter. That will tell you what your time is and how much you have left, and we are very strict on the time limit, so it's fair to everybody. The topic today will be on the Northern Turnpike Extension, and that's what this workshop will consist of. Just so that everybody is aware that we have a 1 o'clock regular commission meeting scheduled, but we won't shorten this meeting. If you're here to speak and you haven't had a chance to speak on this subject, my intention is to keep moving on until everybody that's here to speak has a chance to speak and the commissioners have had a chance to discuss it. So we may end up, if we run long, we may start the commission meeting a little late to give the commissioners some time to go grab something to eat real quick. But we'll see how it goes. So just to let everybody know, you're not going to be told to sit down and be quiet at any time. Unless you're unruly, then we'll ask you to sit down and be quiet. But nobody's going to do that. We know that's not going to happen today. So also, I just want to let you know if you can find a seat, great. If all the seats are full and you want to stand along the back wall, that's okay. But we don't like it when you stand down the sides because it distracts from the meeting. If you can't find a seat and there's nothing along the back wall, then the jury assembly room has been set up across the lobby, which you can see and hear everything that's going on here. And if you need to speak, then you can come back in here and speak at that time. Okay, so hopefully we've covered everything. Commissioners, all good with all that? You ready to go? Okay, so with that said, Mr. Oliver, you want to introduce the presentation?
Yes, we have Jennifer Schultz from the Turnpike Authority. She will start the presentation made by, they represent the Turnpike Authority and FDOT. She also has an additional staff member with her, and they have a presentation that they're going to go through with you to set the stage for the discussion.
Okay, and before you begin, one other thing. I've noticed there's some signs in the audience. We're glad you brought your signs. Use them outside, okay? Don't hold signs up in this room and wave them because that is distracting to the people behind you, and that is the same thing as carrying on a conversation with them. So if you want to hold them in your lap, fine, but don't hold them up and wave them, all right? Thank you very much. You have the floor. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Jennifer Stoltz, the Planning and Environmental Management Administrator for FDOT Florida's Turnpike Enterprise, and we thank you for having us here today. With me is Billy Burke, who is the project manager on this project, and we have a short presentation. We will just do a few reminders of things we've discussed before, provide you some additional information, and then we look forward to your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you for having us here today. We do appreciate it. I'm going to give you a brief presentation on the Northern Turnpike extension. I do realize many of you are probably familiar with it, so we've kind of cut out some of the introductory info, but if you need to pause and ask for more, just let me know. Next slide. So the agenda for today, we're going to review the project goals, discuss our process, go over the project schedule, discuss opportunities for public input, review the preliminary alternative corridors, and discuss environmental considerations. Next slide. Project goals. The goals are to enhance regional connectivity, accommodate increased travel demand associated with projected population growth, address regional congestion and safety issues, and lastly, to improve emergency response. Now, this includes providing network redundancy to critical transportation facilities within the study area as a backup and also as an alternative route during emergency or disruptive events. These goals are used to develop the project's purpose and need, which will be refined over time and become more detailed as the project advances through the planning phase, ETDM process, and into the PD&E phase. Next slide. This slide presents the project approach. The initial step was to complete an analysis of the study area considering engineering factors, avoidance and minimization of environmental resources, as well as review of previous studies and reports. Now, this resulted in a set of preliminary alternative corridors. We are currently in the Alternative Corridor Evaluation, or ACE, process. Corridor evaluation criteria will be prepared considering efficient transportation decision-making, or ETDM, comments, project goals, impacts to environmental resources, engineering factors, cost, and public input. The corridor analysis will use the evaluation criteria to measure the relative performance of each alternative corridor before eliminating non-viable corridors and recommending a corridor that will advance to the PD&E study. The PD&E study will involve collecting additional data, developing alternative alignments within the recommended corridor, evaluating transportation systems management and operations, or also called TSM&O, improvements, and performing technical analyses. Additionally, the PD&E study will evaluate an option to not build the project or no build alternative against the build alternatives. After consideration of analysis results, as well as agency and public input, a preferred alternative or a no build alternative will be selected at the conclusion of the PD&E. Next slide. As a reminder, we are early in the first phase of the project development process, which is the planning phase. Next slide. So based on the high level of engagement and interest in this study, FDOT is increasing opportunities to work with local governments, stakeholders, and residents in the study area. The increased engagement will influence the project schedule and allow stakeholders to continue providing feedback that will help us to shape the department's alternative corridor evaluation process and the PD&E, or project development and environment study. This schedule is subject to change, but shown on the screen is the most recent version. The project team anticipates making its corridor recommendation in the first quarter of 2023. A recommended corridor may have multiple alignments that will be further evaluated during the PD&E phase. A PD&E public hearing in the first quarter of 2024 would then present a recommended alternative or no-build alternative. Next slide. The department will host small group meetings with local government and community organizations. Through these small group meetings, we are committed to listening to concerns, receiving feedback, and answering questions. Public information meetings are tentatively scheduled for the first half of 2023. The public hearing for the PD&E study is scheduled for the first quarter of 2024. Next slide. This image shows the 4 initial alternative corridors that were screened in the ETDM process. These corridors were developed based on a preliminary review of environmental considerations and the goals for the project. Starting at Florida's Turnpike and the I-75 interchange, all 4 alternative corridors were developed using geographic information systems mapping to avoid or minimize impact to the natural environment, avoid densely populated areas, along with considering previous studies and reports within the study area. The northernmost alternative, Alternative Corridor North A, is shown in red. Alternative Corridor North B is shown in blue. The preferred alternative from the previously completed 1999 PD&E served as the baseline for this alternative. Alternative Corridor Central is shown in purple. The southernmost corridor, Alternative Corridor South, is shown in yellow and partially overlaps with Alternative Corridor Central. These initial corridors were drawn with a minimum buffer width of 1,000 feet for the purpose of evaluating potential impacts and allowing flexibility for developing narrower alignments that will avoid or minimize impacts during the PD&E study. Next slide. This image shows the preliminary corridors within the study area as well as some environmental features that were considered when developing the corridors. The environmental layers shown on this slide include springs, existing conservation lands, rural and family lands, farmland preservation area. Additional environmental features considered when developing the corridors included wetlands, floodplains, wildlife corridors, wildlife habitat, and surface water bodies. It should be noted that this is a simplified version of the resource layers reviewed by the resource agencies with the intent to show the areas we avoided with the preliminary alternative corridor placement. Next slide. This image shows the preliminary corridors within Citrus County, as well as environmental features that were considered when developing the corridors. If you can just click once to animate. You can see how Alternative Corridor Central partially overlaps with Alternative Corridor South. Again, it should be noted that this is a simplified version of the resource layers being reviewed by the agencies with the intent to show the areas where we avoided with the preliminary alternative corridor placement. Next slide. We have performed an initial analysis of the study area to understand potential project involvement with social, cultural, and natural environmental resources that we should consider as we evaluate the corridors in the ACE process. I'm going to provide some examples of environmental topics. This is just a sample. The entire study process, including the PD&E, will fully address the topics in all three environmental areas, again, social, cultural, and natural. There are over 500,000 acres of land targeted for conservation or protection within the study area. The approach to targeting and adding to conservation lands includes targeting properties through the Florida Forever program, water management district planning, and optimal boundary identification for state parks, state forests, and national wildlife refuges. While these targeted lands are distributed throughout the study area, there are some notable concentrations that may provide some opportunities to partner with environmental resource agencies. In terms of Florida Forever, the concentrations are in southern Levy, western Citrus, and central Marion counties. For water management district lands, those are concentrated in southern Levy, southwest Marion, and northwest Sumter counties. And for optimal boundaries for state parks, forests, and national wildlife refuges, those are concentrated in central Levy, southern Citrus, and northwest Sumter counties. Next slide, please. Potential environmental enhancements include, but are not limited to, water quality improvements such as bridging that allows for increased water flow and retrofitting to alleviate flooding conditions, connecting and expanding conservation lands, connecting and expanding wildlife corridors to reduce fragmentation. This includes providing additional wildlife crossings. Next slide. Your input matters in our decision-making process. For additional information or to make comments, visit the project website at www.floridasturnpike.com/NTE. Contact information for project representatives is also included and available on the website. Next slide. And that concludes our presentation for today, and we appreciate your interest.
Thank you very much. I just want to let you know what our intention is today after your presentation, and if the commissioners have any questions for you, we'll do that, and then we're going to hear from the public. At the end of that time, my hope is at the end of our workshop today, that we'll be able to come up with some preliminary guidance to give to our administrator to develop some type of position paper that'll come back at a future meeting for us to vote on. So first we have to kind of see what the consensus of this board is and, where we want to go. So appreciate you so much being here. If you want to stay around and hear what everybody has to say, and but any actual, formal action we take will have to be at a future meeting, which that will also give people an opportunity to come and speak to that as well. Commissioners, any questions for the agency before we go to public input? Anything? You do?
None for me.
Yes. Commissioner Davis?
Is this being driven by the whole concept of having the Turnpike? Is this being driven by a statewide planning for where we want to encourage development? For example, at a county level, that would be infill into our cities. So I am, as part of Commissioner training, I came across for smart growth and whatnot, came across maps that show that the state is trying to encourage development around the big city centers, and we are just outside of Tampa. So they're trying to put people in those areas to basically to conserve wildlands in Florida in other areas. Yes? No? Maybe?
Yeah, Commissioner Davis, the Department of Transportation's focus is on our transportation system and our transportation network. Development is largely driven by local governments and your comprehensive plans. So, we want to provide connectivity and capacity where it's needed, but we are not attempting to be a driver here. I don't believe that's part of our charge.
Okay, I didn't know if it came from above. And then the next question is, SwiftMud has come out against Southwest Florida Water Management District, for those that are listening, has come out against the Turnpike. How do you respond to their concerns about bifurcating their preservation lands?
Yeah, Commissioner Davis, we have received a letter from the Water Management District, expressing their concerns about that, and we have responded to that, and I apologize, I don't have copies of that correspondence with me, but, obviously it is our intent to minimize impacts to those lands, and as Mr. Burke mentioned, we look not only at existing lands, but lands that have been targeted for future acquisition. So we want to try to avoid the existing and the future, and if there's opportunities to partner on the future, some of these lands have been targeted, vetted, and are awaiting funding. Maybe there's an opportunity for us if we need to create some mitigation. We've certainly been given some broad latitude by the legislature to, explore those types of partnerships. So we want to be good partners with our state and federal resource agencies as well as our local governments.
Super, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the presenters? Nothing? Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you being here today and sharing that information. As I said, you're welcome to stick around and partake in the rest of it. Okay, Mr. Oliver, anything else before we go to public comment?
No, sir.
Okay, very good. This time, and again, the only other thing I'll ask, I know there's a lot of speakers here today. I don't want to edit or censor anybody in any way, but let's try to keep redundancy down. If we have 50 people here that want to say the exact same thing, you don't have to say, well, I agree with what they just said, or I don't agree with them, but it'll help give everybody a chance to speak in a timely manner if we can keep redundancy as low as possible. But it's your call. We'll be here until midnight if we have to be, okay? So with that said, I'll invite whoever wishes to address the board on this topic of the presentation to come forward. Again, I'll remind you to fill out a greeting card and give us your name.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Dr. Paul John Reinhardt. I'm a candidate for State House District 23 in an open primary. Like I mentioned before, I'm the Teddy Roosevelt Conservationist Republican whose great-grandfather sailed from Tampa with Teddy and charged up San Juan Hill as a Rough Rider. I hopped on this thing way before 2018. It used to be called the Coastal Connector. President Calvin Coolidge said business of America is business. But there wasn't one route on FDOT's proposed routes that doesn't wipe out small businesses. Some routes actually wipe out minority-owned black small businesses and whole neighborhoods. We must protect the most vulnerable of businesses, not to seek to annihilate them in favor of large corporate conglomerates Like I said, I'm truly the Teddy Roosevelt campaigner. I'm a conservationist. I do not want the wildlife corridor disturbed. I do not want our aquifer tampered with. I don't mind clobbering corporate greed that's pushing these roads over, and I don't mind banging them over the head with a big stick, including greedy big developers. In the words of John F. Kennedy, let us not seek the Republican answer or the Democrat answer, but the right answer. Let us not seek to fix blame for the past. Let us accept our own responsibility for the future. Choose no build like Levy County, the cities of Inglis, Yankeetown, Denellen, and Inverness. I lived in this same house in Citrus County 43 years, and I don't want to see two major highways slated to cloverleaf together in this county. Please don't Los Angeles my Citrus County. Thank you.
Thank you. We have the next speaker, please. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, Commissioner. I'm Mark Saveska. I live in Beverly Hills. I'm here to represent the Pine Ridge Property Owners Association. I have a letter on file for that. Pine Ridge is a community that covers about 8,900 acres, more than $1 billion in property value, over 3,500 homes, and it's the largest named community in Citrus County. On their behalf, we are here to recommend the Citrus County Board of County Commissioners adopt a no-build option for the Turnpike extension. We choose that language because that's the language of the study. 4 alternatives, all of which end on US 19. It's kind of an all or nothing, 19 or a no-build. That's probably a little bit of a flaw in the study structure. Our county is growing, and we have to accommodate that, but we're great fans of smart growth, smart build that we want to focus on. But the study does not pursue what we consider to be smart build options that would be of better value to our community. Smart build that seeks first to expand existing infrastructure to allow that, avoids damage to our ecosystem, the nature in the nature coast, and the foundation of our ecotourism and our rural lifestyle that many value here. And it does not plow through developed communities and force the removal of families. On that last point, plowing through communities, that is a particular concern for Pine Ridge. The Suncoast has already taken 25 parcels of land, about 50 acres, 5 beautiful homes. 5 families are now looking for another place to live. The central corridor, or the central alternative and the southern alternative, now threaten to run through the northern part of Pine Ridge and the western part of Pine Ridge. That's many dozens of homes and dozens of families. If those options are selected, Pine Ridge would be sandwiched by the Suncoast on the south and southwest side and the north side with the Turnpike extension and the west side. That's just too much demand from one single community. Each of you have a letter from our board president that advocates that no-build option. It provides some significant details on what we see are flaws to the study structure, and some of the what we believe to be exaggerations of the requirements for and the benefits of the Turnpike extension. I'll be followed by 4 of my colleagues. They'll provide a lot more detail on some of these issues, but I would like to highlight a couple of big items so that we're aware of what we have in way of concerns. Objective 1 is to enhance the Turnpike extension is to enhance regional connectivity. But connectivity for what? Connecting Orlando and the villages or east-west to a future villages west, or a potential technological hub that we hope to be in our area for good paying and career jobs, hoping that if we build it, meaning the Turnpike, it will come. That's kind of a high risk proposition. Or do we really want connectivity for the citizenry of our county, the businesses and the workforce that we have today and the workforce that we will have in the future? Not necessarily the one that we want to have, but the one that we do have in both of those. And the Turnpike extension would bypass many of those businesses and not really provide as much benefit to the citizenry and the current and future workforce for our county. Objective 2 is to accommodate increased travel demand. Overall, according to FDOT's own models, there's sufficient capacity from today all the way through 2045 in that. The northern portion of the Suncoast is operating and has been for quite some time at below 10% capacity. And it has been for about a year. FDOT's travel demand model for the future, for 2045, shows that our road network is generally satisfactory, with a few exceptions. There are those exceptions, but the Turnpike is not going to solve that for us. On top of that, the travel demand model also does not include the effects of the Suncoast. So we're satisfactory even without the Suncoast, according to their own models. Objective 3 addressed regional congestion and safety. The Turnpike extension offers little relief to the congestion identified in that travel demand module for 2045. The intent is to bring congestion of traffic from I-75 over into the western part. Basically, it doesn't improve it in large measure, it just spreads it around. Hurricane evacuation, 3 major metropolitan areas all converge on US 19. That is going to be a choke point. You're not going to increase throughput because you're limited to US 19. Again, a flaw in the study. In summary, the Turnpike extension, by their own objectives, offers minor to no benefit and comes with potential great harm and great risk for us.
Your
We
time
urge
has
you to have
expired.
that option.
Thank you very
you
much.
for your time this morning.
Thank you for being here. We have the next speaker, please.
It did.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Jim Reynolds, a Pine Ridge resident also. I'm a transportation engineer with 40 years experience, professional experience in Florida. Mark addressed the project goals, they're called, but highway projects of this magnitude are required to identify a purpose and need, and I don't think we've seen or heard that yet. Thinking about those 4 goals a little further, there is no need for regional connectivity. The congestion we have is local, not inter-regional. The travel demand goal is addressed by the MPO and the regional transportation model. That travel demand has already been modeled, quantified, and identified, and tells us that there's no need for an additional freeway. Regional congestion and safety may be a problem on I-75 between Wildwood and Gainesville, but a new freeway to US 19 doesn't solve that problem. And with hurricane evacuation, I would just add that there's no reason to build a freeway to Wildwood for hurricane evacuation here. Our review of the best source of transportation decision-making is the Citrus Hernando MPO Long-Range Transportation Plan. That plan forecasts our population growing from 2020 to 2045 from 151,000 to 186,000 people in the county. That's a 23% increase over 25 years. Not an overwhelming demand. The existing road network supports this growth, and the LRTP says that the overall performance of the road network is satisfactory, unquote. There are only a few segments that exhibit potential deficiency. You mentioned a few earlier, and these are already being addressed in the plan and the work program. The regional travel demand model that I just mentioned only considers the Suncoast Parkway going up to and ending at County Road 486. So when that model is updated with the Suncoast going all the way to US 19, it'll provide all the capacity we'd ever need from central Citrus County to US 19. We also believe that the identification and preliminary engineering that
I'm
was...
sorry, sir, your time's expired. If you watch folks, when you watch the timer, they'll tell you how much time you have left coming up in case you need to summarize and wrap up, so.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we have the next speaker, please? Sir, could you fill out a green card, please? Okay.
My name is Donald Woods. I live in Vine Ridge, and I'm here to talk about the Northern Turnpike extension as well. I'm asking the board to adopt the no-build option for the Turnpike extension from Wildwood to US 19. The Turnpike extension design does not take into consideration the Suncoast Parkway already under construction with a terminus at US 19, and US 19 last year was underwater for quite a while. The 4 Florida Department of Transportation goals are not met by carrying the Turnpike. The need to increase the regional connectivity between Orlando and Citrus County does not exist. County Road 44, US 19, and the Suncoast Parkway will fulfill this goal. Residential growth is at a record high in Citrus County, which is already taxing our aquifer. Industrial and commercial will disrupt our rural agricultural community, hurt our small business, our natural resources, and the county's small town charm. Citrus County demographics show that 38% of the residents are age 65 and older. 90% of the population has a high school diploma, 18% have a higher level. With this demographic, most likely the type of growth we will see from this Turnpike hourly wage jobs, and unfortunately, that does not always compute to a living wage. The demand for hourly workers in Citrus County is already high. Many positions remain unfulfilled, with our residential growth focused on the mid-market housing in 55 communities. An infusion of workers is unlikely without the growth of affordable workforce housing. The 2 southernmost routes of the Turnpike alternative conveniently leave out the fact that numerous homes, multiple established communities, will be taken by eminent domain and destroyed. The families that live there will be displaced. Increased travel demand in Citrus County is local, not interregional. Citrus County is facing increased local traffic from residential housing growth. Funding is needed to maintain our existing collectors and arterial network. Future traffic from the Suncoast Tollway will increase this need, and so will the Turnpike. These improvements are left to the taxpayers to pick up the tab for what the state considers progress. I would like to know how much of the toll monies collected from these roads are infused back into the county to support our infrastructure because of increased usage. I'd like to thank you folks for having us here, and I do not envy what you've got to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you being here today. Have the next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Dave Schweitzer. I live in Pine Ridge, and I'm a retired law enforcement officer. I'm asking the board to adopt the no-build option for the Turnpike extension from Wildwood to US 19. The Turnpike design does not take into consideration the Suncoast Parkway, already under construction with the terminus at US 19. The 4 Florida Department of Transportation goals are not met by building the Turnpike, and I'm going to address 2 of the goals: 1, regional congestion and safety, and 2, hurricane evacuation. Regional congestion and safety. The congestion and safety problems depicted by Florida Department of Transportation are within and between Orlando and Ocala region. To address this problem, infrastructure in and around Ocala should be improved. I-75 congestion and road closures between Orlando and Ocala should be addressed by improving operational procedures and infrastructure within the affected areas. Attempting to relieve this congestion by building the Turnpike extension into an area where studies do not support increased traffic demand does not make sense. Accidents cause major backups on any road, especially I-75. The implementation of a strategic plan for handling accidents and increased response time is needed to clear accidents from the roadway as quickly as possible to keep traffic flowing. Point 2, hurricane evacuation. Hurricane evacuation strategy in Florida is based on landfall region evacuation to safe shelter in another region or another state. Florida does not have, nor can it afford, highway infrastructure that evacuates its entire population to safe shelter simultaneously. Within the existing roadways in Citrus County and the Suncoast Parkway, people in this region should be able to evacuate to shelters, making the Turnpike unnecessary. The building of a new Turnpike will not benefit the evacuation of Florida because during an evacuation, the vehicle volume will exceed the capability of the roadway capacities. The shelters in Citrus County are for the residents of the county and are there to be utilized in emergency situations. Citrus County will not be able to create, maintain staff, sufficient shelter capacities for local residents and those from other counties. Providing additional highway capacity for a larger volume of out-of-county evacuees seeking shelter does not exist and is not good emergency management planning. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Can we have the next speaker, please?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Eileen Schweitzer, and I live in Pine Ridge. I am your last speaker. You have just listened to the presentation from the chairman of the Pine Ridge Committee and 3 other Pine Ridge community members, all asking this board to adopt and support the no-build option for the Florida Turnpike extension. I am no exception. I am also here to ask this board to adopt and support the no-build option for the Turnpike extension. You were all delivered a letter from the Pine Ridge Homeowners Association signed by Michael Perry defining who we are as a community and why we support no-build. This letter is not based in emotion, but rather based in a rich facts supported by the goals of our community. The 4 main goals of the Florida extension fall short of meeting these goals. We believe the Turnpike extension is flawed and will not support the objective of our community nor maintain our quality of life. We are particularly concerned with the results of building the Turnpike extension Alternative Corridor Central. Between building the Alternative Corridor Central to our north and the Suncoast Parkway to our west, it puts our established rural equestrian community bound by freeways on at least 2 sides. Families in our community have already lost their homes to eminent domain due to the Suncoast. Not once did we hear the Turnpike representatives address this issue. We do not want to see this happening to anyone else. The need to increase regional conductivity between Orlando and Citrus County does not exist, and County Road 44, US 19, and Suncoast Parkway already fulfill this goal. With 38% of our population being 65 and older, residential growth is high and focused on mid-market housing and 55 and over communities. People flock to Citrus County to escape the city life, to live in the country. Let's preserve our small businesses and small town feel the Nature Coast is so famous for. We do not believe there is a problem with regional congestion and safety rising to the level requiring a second freeway. It is apparent that the problem is on existing arterial and primary in the Ocala region and not in Citrus County where the Suncoast Parkway is already being delivered. We don't believe that hurricane evacuation will be enhanced by the Northern Turnpike extension. In emergency situations like an impending hurricane, with the existing roadways in Citrus County and the Suncoast Parkway, people in this region should be able to evacuate to shelters, making the Turnpike unnecessary. Projections by Tallahassee and the state are that residents will evacuate to local shelters due to gas prices and the economy and will not be going inter-county for those shelters.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have the next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Mark Bateman. I live in Citrus Hills. Dear commissioners, please listen to me. I want to call out one commissioner. The only question to the Highway Department was, there's a plan afoot to encourage urban development and preserve conservation. And this speaker said just that the Citrus County is just outside the urban Tampa area. Do you think that Citrus County is just outside Tampa?
Address the chair and not the audience, okay?
I call that out because I don't think that's the case. But let me start with a quote from the Episcopal Book of Common Prayer, "This fragile earth, our island home." Earth is indeed a fragile environment all around us. We see evidence of humankind's effect on the environment. So let's not be blind to our potential to ruin our own futures. The last speaker talked about the fact that this is a rural county. Darn right, it's a rural county, and that's why we're here. That's why so many retirees are here. We're going to turn it into an extension of Tampa, according to one of our commissioners. I don't think that's the direction we want to go. That's not why you folks are up there to represent us. Our interests are keeping this county the character that made it so charming and dear to us when we moved here. Now, I've been here 5 years, okay? I'm not an old-timer. Came from Michigan, but I love the county. I didn't know at first what to expect. It was my wife that wanted to come down here. But I grew to love this place. The Rainbow Springs Park, Fort Island Beach, the wilderness, the Withlacoochee State Trail for bicycling. And by the way, I see the impact on our bicycle trails of these turnpikes. We don't need any more roads. I've heard a lot of that. You know, I mean, we've got the tollway coming, the 589, and then we've got this turnpike coming. And right in the middle, you know, I'm going to paraphrase that Joni Mitchell song. They paved paradise and put up an interchange. They're going to pave the whole darn thing. People, think about it. Please respond. I think that the people here are going to give you a real loud shout out to preserve what we have. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have the next speaker, please?
Good morning. My name is John Henderson, and everything I want to say is in writing, and they'll be giving it to you. I designed 3 years ago a turnpike, interstate, up through this area using 589 all the way to Cordell, Georgia. I updated 2 years ago when I came back to Florida, was able to get back to Florida. Now, I can tell you something. You don't want the turnpike to come across west of 75. They're already crossing 75 to 589 right now. They're already down there surveying the route through there to widen the road to, I suspect, to 6 lanes. I don't know how many roads. But on this drawing I'm going to give you today, shows a turnpike from Tampa to Cordell, Georgia. It shows how many lanes it's going to be. The problem is I'm going to use 589, which can only go out to three roads south of 50. Okay, I've ridden all the roads in the state of Florida. I was born and raised here in Largo. I do not want more of the East Coast traffic coming across 75. Right now, they're fixing to create another 44 at mess at 89, 98 and the turnpike, unless they can get 4 lanes north out of there, straight across the rivers. This road was sent to the governor. It's in the governor's office. It's in the highway department's office. I've been up to, and they said, well, we can't go north of 10. Well, you can't go nowhere unless you request it as far as interstate. So I'm going to give you this. It's all in writing. It's all in the governor's office and the state road department. We do not need it. If they go put 98 across here, we do not need the turnpike traffic over here unless they give us the interstate. I request it. If they don't give us the interstate, keep that mess over there. Because we already got a mess here. We get 800 people a day in the state of Florida. A lot of us, if you look around here and look at the building, a lot of us come into Sisters County. It's going to be more and more. I grew up in this state, mate. I've seen every one of the people who was in service here in 1940s come back here and more. We do not need it. If we don't get a interstate up through this area.
Sir, your time has expired.
If you don't get an interstate up through this area.
Thank you.
You create another highway to hell. It's already being, 589
Thank you for being here today. We appreciate your comments. Thank you.
I gave her the.
Okay, very good.
She'll copy it and give it to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you for being here. Can we have the next speaker, please?
These are always a problem. So anyway, My name's Lee Tripp. I live in Eden Gardens on the east side of the county, 4. And there's a lot of people here today, just like last time the Turnpike was on the agenda, a lot of people. And you can tell because of these nice little stickers what the vast majority of these people are here for. And I was going to say, I'm asking you to listen. Obviously, you are listening, and I appreciate that you're listening to the expressed will of the people that have elected you. And I didn't have time to memorize anything here, but this is going to be short. And so you're listening, but I'm going to ask that you also do. And first of all, do not ignore these people. And don't think you know better than them. Just represent them. And that's what you do. And you're good at it. And we're here for one reason, to make our will known to the commission. And we hope that the commission will make that will known to the DOT, which is, we don't want that turnpike. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. We have the next speaker, please.
Good morning. My name's Eugene Kelly. I'm here to speak on behalf of the Florida Native Plant Society. I'm a Brooksville resident, so not technically a constituent, but this is a concern for our organization. We have more than 100 members that are Citrus County residents, members of the Citrus County chapter of the Native Plant Society, so I think some of them are here today. How is this relevant to an organization like the Florida Native Plant Society? The Department of Transportation, in their presentation, they acknowledged the hundreds of thousands of acres of conservation land in your county. That's what's relevant to us. Our mission to conserve the native plants and native plant communities of Florida. Many of the most important of those areas are within publicly owned conservation lands, and we cannot conserve those lands now and into the future if we can't burn them. Almost every native Florida habitat is dependent to some degree on fire to maintain its viability. We have hundreds of imperiled species in this state, and I can tell you there are dozens of threatened and endangered plant and animal species that imperiled status is a direct consequence of fire suppression, fire exclusion, lack of fire. If we're going to recover those species, we need to burn more than we do now. There was also reference made to the letter from the Water Management District. There's nothing in there about prescribed burning, but it does include the word management. As a conservation biologist and conservation land manager, I can tell you, reading between the lines, they are talking about their ability to continue to use fire to manage areas like Potts Preserve and Flying Eagle. There's no bigger enemy to the prescribed burn manager, the conservation land manager, than roads, especially high-speed roads. And to put this into some scale, over the last 10 years, more than 6,000 burn authorizations have been issued by the Florida Forest Service. You cannot legally conduct a prescribed burn unless you have a burn authorization. They will not issue a burn authorization if there's a danger that it's going to put a plume of smoke over what they call a smoke-sensitive land use. That includes roads, nursing homes, schools, but certainly roads, especially high-speed roads. And if you think this is just an issue for public land managers, conservation land managers, of those 6,000 burn authorizations, 75% were issued to private landowners, those who produce timber on their property, those who produce cattle on ranch lands, even some kinds of cropland depend on using fire to maintain the productivity of those lands. So here we are debating roads for which there's been no demonstrated need.
Your time has expired, sir. Sorry.
Please just say no build.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Could you fill out a card, please, sir?
I did.
You did?
I turned it in, yes.
Oh, she needs you, though. The clerk needs you for some reason. Next speaker, please.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Bill White, 12115 Palmetto Way, Dunellen. I happen to be wearing two hats today. I am the mayor of Dunellen, and I also am a property owner and taxpayer in Citrus County. I own a tract of land on 488 on the Withlacoochee River. So I'm actually here speaking as the speaker for Dunellen and as a taxpayer of Citrus County. One thing I've noticed as I'm growing older is my hair is getting grayer. I've got a few wrinkles here and there, and I'm getting my hair receding. There's nothing really great about getting older, but you do get a little wiser. And one of the things I have found is something we've all heard, that those that fail to understand and to read history will be doomed to repeat it. And I will say in my 50-plus years of living in Florida, and I've lived in 3 locations before I settled here, that in Pinellas County used to have land in between the municipalities. There was actually, you could tell when you were in Largo, you could tell when you were in Clearwater, you could tell when you were in St. Pete, because there was land in between. Right now, the only way you know the difference in the cities is on which side of Belcher Road you're on. It was built up with the promise that roads would alleviate the problem. Pinellas County is just as congested, if not more so, than it was when this argument was presented. I moved to Sarasota County, where I taught school for a few years. We were told that 41 going through Sarasota County would be alleviated when 75 skirted 8 miles outside of Sarasota. Well, what has happened since 75 has been built, now you have a connection from 75 all the way to the coast where Sarasota is of building an urban sprawl. The traffic on 41 through Sarasota is as bad as or worse than it was before 75. Then I go to the last place I lived, the Fort Lauderdale area. I live in a little town called Davie. And Davie was a rural area of Fort Lauderdale. It still had horse ranches, cows, things like that. They built 595 with the premise that it will relieve the traffic in the Fort Lauderdale-Davie area. Right now, all the farms are gone, all the space is gone. It's just sprawl as far as you can see. So don't be hoodwinked into thinking that roads relieve congestion. It actually creates congestion. So in closing, I would just like to say that Dunellen has a no-build referendum. It's already been submitted to FDOT. We listened to our constituents, which had 2 meetings, just like this, and I would ask that you consider coming up with a statement of no build and not follow the same path of Pinellas County, Sarasota, and Fort Lauderdale. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We appreciate you being here. We have the next speaker, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Elise Bennett, and I'm the Deputy Florida Director and an attorney at the Center for Biological Diversity, which is a nonprofit that's dedicated to protecting wildlife and wild places here in the state. So I'm here today speaking on behalf of the center and our Florida members, including those in Citrus County. But I'm also a born and raised Floridian who spent my formative years exploring the Sala Apopka chain of lakes and riding bikes around the country roads in Floral City where my grandmother lived. And when my family and I think of Citrus County, we think of charming, close-knit communities. We think of those tea-colored waters and those large, imposing cypress trees that are just teeming with life. We think of expansive fields peppered with oak trees, and of course, Floral City's historic Avenue of Oaks. It's a rich quality of life enjoyed by folks here, including many of my own family members, and it's also what draw people like me to come back again and again and again. The Northern Turnpike extension risks this county's rich quality of life and unique character. 2 of the proposed corridors cut gashes through the county, and these new highways are likely to have sprawl-inducing effects, which you've already heard a lot about. And they'll reverberate through the county, fueling ill-conceived strip malls, more parking lots, and mega developments that communities just don't need here. And the proposed corridors would also potentially bisect the Withlacoochee State Trail and the Suncoast Trail number 2, local recreational gems here in Citrus County. I know I've enjoyed both of them. The The Turnpike extension is also a threat to our native ecosystems and a lot of rare and imperiled species here in the county who call this place home. The new highways would cut off a key wildlife corridor that is needed for species like the Florida scrub jay, the wood stork, the eastern indigo snake, and the Florida panther. And in fact, the panther's recovery depends on having these wildlife corridors to make it back into its historic range across the state. It would also displace imperiled gopher tortoises, which, if you've seen in the news, are already facing a real struggle to find places for them to continue to live as we sprawl out across the state. And it would also destroy wetlands and degrade watersheds that protect clean water for everyone and offer habitat for species like the threatened eastern black rail. So I'd say this, Commissioner Davis, you're right to be concerned about wetlands and water, and I hope you continue to pursue your concerns there. And also, as it was discussed by a previous speaker, it would hinder the ability to manage fire-dependent habitats, and that includes natural landscapes as well as agricultural. There's just no documented need for these roads, and the communities don't want them, as embodied by the comments you've seen here today, and by the Inverness City Council's unanimous decision to adopt a no-build option. On the other hand, there is so much to lose for communities and for wildlife.
Thank you, ma'am. Your time's expired. Thank you. Can we have the next speaker, please?
Good morning, Commissioners,
Good morning.
and particularly to my Holly Davis, that represents my area.
Good morning.
I am Dr. B.J. Ezel, and this is my earthly king, Thurman Ezel. And I'll start with the same words I'll end with, no build. We live on Highway 200, Carl G. Rose Highway. After 6.5 years of being in the county, and prior to that, traveling for 10 years, consulting in hospitals and trying to make those entities better. We've lived in Dallas and born in the Orlando area, and we see what highways do. I was born at a time when, yes, I'm 72 this month. I lived at a time when there were no highways in Orlando, Florida. When we retired, I was very, very impressed after my own internal hopes that my husband would say we would retire here. Even with a 3% African American community, and even with Confederate flags flying all over, we have a home. We have people that love us and look out for us. We promised our children that we would be in a place where we could leave a legacy. My king built my dream home on 200. My concern, our concern, yes, yes, and you can't see it from the roadway. Our concern is what's happening right now and what's going to continue to happen unless we do a no-build and work on our roadways that are already existing. On 200, we had the unpleasant experience of witnessing a motorcycle collision with a vehicle. Neither of those people on the motorcycle made it through. We've also witnessed a child being killed stepping off a school bus on 200. We've also witnessed someone who was perhaps more mentally unstable in the middle of the roadway, that they were killed by a vehicle. We, in this county, we have the highest number of roadway deaths of the 15 block counties that we're in. I appreciate the articles by the Chronicle, in particular with Commissioner Kennard speaking to, we have a problem. And our problem isn't that we need a highway. Our problem is we need to consider our human factor. Every time we drive 200 at night, before we turn into our little dark trail to home, we're looking, double drivers, we're looking to make sure someone isn't walking on the roadway because there's no sidewalks, there's no bike path. We beseech you. You've heard everything about environmentals and water. There's a human factor. We have 6 children, 11 grandchildren, soon to be 12. And 5 great-grandchildren. When they come to Citrus County to be with us, they enjoy peace and quiet and the love of just being able to roam on 6 acres and have fun.
Your time's
I'm going to
expired,
end
ma'am.
with no build.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you each get 3 minutes, so if you want to pick up where she left off, it's up to you.
Thank you. Y'all have a blessed one.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Good morning. I'm Sally McDavid, and I'm president of Florida Forever Backcountry Horsemen. 5 minutes? I'm on file.
The clerk
Thank
is
you.
nodding her head yes. So
Thank
that's,
you.
okay.
And I'm also a fourth-generation Florida cracker. I've spent the last 36 years in Citrus County, 14 years prior to that in Levy County, and the first 20 years of my life, more or less, in Clay County, Florida, and Bradford County for school. So I'm very familiar with this whole area where these paths go. This is a project that will greatly affect not only Citrus County, but the entire region for the rest of time. Not just today, not just tomorrow, the rest of time. What happens to rural Florida and our lifestyle is up to you and the local governments that are in the path of this destruction. The environment, homes, farms, timberland, recreation areas, and again, our way of life are all at risk. All of these things are the very reason that people come to Citrus County to visit, and it's also the same reason they come here to stay. Once these treasures are ruined, our water is sucked dry. There's no turning back. You won't be able to fix it, but you can stop it right now. The MCORS task force said all 3 of the proposed routes were not wanted or needed at that time. Florida Tax Watch said the Suncoast Connector was a risky project and a large price tag and little demonstrated transportation needs. These encompass a lot of people in the know. Now here we are again with the reiteration of 2 of those 3 routes, and not much has changed in the last 2 years. Certainly not the legislature, who is trying to force us to accept this cursed road, and the FTE, who's bowing to the political pressure involved. Citrus County needs to tell the politicians in Tallahassee and their road building and developer special interest friends, we don't need or want this road. Instead of a new road, maybe use some common sense. Increase traffic capacity in those urban areas that really need it. Don't just send it elsewhere. So many other roads can be improved and expanded on. And don't just throw something together because the politicians have instituted a deadline that is unrealistic and a road that's not needed. I'm convinced that FTE doesn't begin to understand what's under their pretty colored proposed routes. They were given an edict and acted on it. It is a massive undertaking through some of the most vulnerable land in the state, and it's no wonder it's so full of holes. I heard Ms. Stoltz say at the Inverness meeting that they're fiscally responsible and they don't build anything that doesn't pay for itself. Not true. Garson Point Bridge, Midway Bridge, Suncoast Parkway 1, Veterans Expressway, Polk Parkway, and Seminole, just to name a few. They've been able to absorb the losses from these roads, robbing successful toll facilities such as the Miami to Orlando, Florida Turnpike, and the Sunshine Skyway Bridge in Tampa and St. Pete. And one last example of the lunacy is the highly expensive 2-year study to make US 19 a free-flow road when capacity is projected to be underutilized by 80% 27 years from now. Surely there's enough room there to take on whatever is going to be fed from the Suncoast Parkway. We cannot let them ruin the last stretch of rural Florida to erase traffic on I-4 and I-75 because they allowed uncontrolled growth. It should not be our burden. Please, because it's the right thing to do, join Levy County, Inverness, Inglis, Yankeetown, and Dunellen and pass a no-build resolution. Thank you for your time and all of your efforts.
Thank you very much for being here. Could we have the next speaker, please?
You already have my card. That's a hard act to follow. I'm Dr. Bert Eno, retired professor of mechanical engineering from the University of Central Florida. Couldn't wait to retire and move out of the Orlando area. And my wife and I settled in Rainbow Springs 19 years ago, and we discovered the Rainbow River. I soon became the president of the Rainbow River Conservation, a consortium consisting of 270 members, all concerned with the future of the Rainbow River, trying to preserve it and prevent the difficulty or the threats that occur because of overdevelopment, misuse, and pollution. And I've also become a board member to the Florida Springs Council. Same argument there. They're trying to save the springs and protect our water so we can continue to have drinking water. More recently, I've joined up with the Wildlife Corridor Coalition and attended, in fact, last month, a summit meeting of that organization in Orlando. I can't help but think that this is nothing more than a make-work project to fatten the pocketbooks of the people who work for the DOT. It seems like I've witnessed that for the 40 years that I have lived in the state of Florida, and it doesn't subside. The task force for the Turnpike extension found that there was no reason to build it that was given, and they ruled that they'd prefer not to see it happen again. But here it is, still being pushed. It does threaten everything that these people have been saying about the environment, the wildlife, the way of life for all of the people in the area, including my wife and me. I recently came across an article written by Jeff Vandermeer entitled "The Annihilation of Florida, an Overlooked National Tragedy," a subtitle, "An Accelerating Race to Destroy Florida's Wilderness Shows What We Value and Previews Our Collective Future During the Climate Crisis." I've read that over. It explains about the Wildlife Corridor effort to save some corridors, some areas where our threatened wildlife can still subsist. And it also goes into quite a discussion
Thanks, sir.
of the damage from the Turnpike extension.
Your time's expired. I need to catch you
so
up there.
No build for sure.
Thank you very much. Can we have the next speaker, please? Can you set the beeper up on
My name's Don Clark, and I live in Floral City. I've been here since 2008, and of course, I really, really love the outdoors in Citrus County. I've been a guide. I've been a scuba instructor and a boat captain, and most of my hobbies have to do with the water in Citrus County. Now, but what I wanted to address is a couple of things the speaker said. One, he used the wrong name, I think purposely, for a lot of the things they're doing. He called them enhancements. They aren't enhancements. They're only mitigations to mitigate the damage that a new road always does. And there is no guarantee at this time that they will do any of the things they said they would do. And secondly, Commissioner Davis, you had a really good question, and I think they sideswiped it from you. They actually do have an intention, and that is to make real estate available for tract homes to bring more people into all of the areas that are less inhabited along these turnpike routes. That is an old growth pattern for Florida since Florida started. But we are now the third most populous state in the country and have way below the other large states' average wages, and what we need, it's all about the money. Organizations, country, you have to raise taxes. Well, when you bring people in, when you bring retirees in, they're living off the money that they got. If you make jobs where young people come, they grow. You need to make jobs for young people. They grow wealth, and they pass it on to their children. Also, young people with families or grandparents who have their families near them are much more willing to pay for services. If you want more taxes, don't bring more of us retirees in. Make good jobs for young people. But state of Florida is still going with that old routine.
Sir, your time's expired.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, the next speaker, please. Again, I'll remind all the speakers yet to speak, if you watch the timer, you won't get cut short, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'll do my best. Thank you. My name is John DiMaria. My wife and I live in Citrus Springs, which, in this case, we live kind of like in corridor. The central corridor kind of goes right through the middle of where we are. I'm here to speak against the proposed Northern Turnpike extension. When a concerned neighbor first tried to explain this plan to me, I couldn't wrap my head around it. When you look at any of the proposed routes on a map and then think about what is trying to be accomplished, the idea that it could possibly be worth all the time and money it requires seems to me to be bluntly ridiculous. Today, some of our neighbors are here and some are not. Some don't know about this project and some don't want to know. Some look around and see all the new homes being built and are positive it wouldn't happen here. Some just don't care if, through eminent domain, they would have to move. And some simply trust in the tender mercies of the state of Florida to protect them. As for my wife and I, recent history has wrestled such failings of imagination from us. I have very little difficulty visualizing the condemnation and destruction of a wide swath of Citrus County District 3, or envisioning the homes that remain being left with all the sights, sounds, and smells of their permanent, omnipresent, and thoroughly obnoxious new neighbor. Worst of all, I am terrified by the almost incalculable impact that this toll road will reap on the environment and all the wildlife that sadly is completely dependent on our good judgment and foresight for its very survival. I believe it would be unconscionable to recommend this building, this monstrosity here in Citrus County, or in any of our sister counties, as it diminishes every resident's quality of life. I'm sure there is a lot of smart folks working at the Florida Department of Transportation, preparing detailed studies about what the impact of each of these proposed routes might be. But I think we all know they are going to be wrong. And what we will surely be left with is a steaming pile of unintended consequences of a poorly conceived, greed-driven, and clearly unnecessary road that for a fee will take us to nowhere at 70 miles an hour. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, the next speaker, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. My name is Devon Carollo. I'm a Florida native, and I speak to you today on behalf of Nature Coast Conservation, a nonprofit dedicated to protecting the land, water, air, and wildlife of the Nature Coast. Our concern for the environment is overriding on this issue, but I would like to quickly go through a few of the top fiscal and financial and political reasons that I think you as commissioners will have to consider in your decision-making today. And that many of them you've heard, so I'll be brief. One, the new toll road project is a Tallahassee politically driven rather than locally driven agenda. It was created without any consultation on the local level. It preempted your home rule and your responsibility for good planning in this community. There's no documented need for the roads. The final report of the MCOR's even admitted as much, and nothing has changed since. Nothing has been substantiated to document a critical driving need that couldn't be otherwise fulfilled by widening I-75 or doing other things, such as improving local roads that are clearly needed. No need for them has ever been established by any other agency. They were not vetted through your Citrus Hernando municipal planning process, nor through any of your advisory committees. They're not in your long-range transportation plan, nor have they been vetted by the planners of this road, nor did they come to you as the leaders of Citrus County for your opinion on it. So I feel like the local officials have been preempted on this, and I support home rule strongly, and I think this is an issue that should be at the core of your decision, among others. As a result, these toll roads are also not funded, and funds for the planning effort are being drained from local programs that do benefit Citrus County, such as the Transportation Disadvantaged Trust Fund, the Small County Road Assistant Program, and the Small County Outreach Program. This is local taxpayer money being used for something that they didn't support. And the local impacts of these roads will be your responsibility. If built, the interchange locations will compound local traffic issues on state and county roads, which may not be able to accommodate the increase in usage and rerouting. That will be your local, you'll be on the hook for those expenses. And we've also heard that the Southwest Florida Water Management District has already formally expressed its opposition to these proposed routes. So there's that. And there are other transportation projects that should be prioritized for local and regional roads instead, that are consistent with your comprehensive plan, and that do represent smart building, infill development, local smart growth, rather than urban sprawl that is not needed, not documented, and preempts your authority.
Excuse me, ma'am, your time has expired.
Please adopt the no-build option. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Can we have the next speaker, please?
Hello, my name is Cassandra Kippenberger. I am actually currently a resident of Inverness. I actually moved here from Lecanto. I was a part of eminent domain, which was the Suncoast Parkway came in, and we had to move. I am asking you to please do a no build here in Citrus County, because me personally, connecting as a resident, I moved here from Lakeland, Florida, and me and my family moved out of there to get out of the busy towns and everything. We came here, we found a place and settled. I have lived here for the past 10 years, and since they started building and they completed the Suncoast Parkway, we have seen dramatic increases in people, including traffic, backed up into Inverness downtown. We've seen a lot of people come down. We actually moved right by the Withlacoochee Forest. And constantly, we've seen voters, we've seen people, crashes, especially they recently just had one down there off by the Suncoast Parkway not too long ago, and people coming in there from the Crystal Oaks. They're actually scared that they're gonna end up hitting somebody who's going 70 miles an hour coming off of the Suncoast Parkway. I've seen countless people, crashes increasing since they opened it. And so I'm asking you, please, as a Citrus County resident, do not build. Thank you.
Thank you. May I have the next speaker, please?
Hi, my name is Ellie Quinn, and I'm a Crystal River resident. I've been standing here for just over an hour listening to everybody before me speak, basically on a different issue, but all saying the same thing. There's no report that shows that this is going to benefit anything other than other areas and dollars for other people, not for the residents here. We all moved here for a way of life that the people that opened the meeting instantly put me on guard with losing that way of life when they talk about projects going forward. after this. What are those projects? The citizens have not heard of these projects. We hear about things too late, just like y'all got this information too late, and now we have to stand up and say no. But we're supposed to have a voice and a representation. And if every report and every person that has stood here and said the same thing isn't heard today, what's going to happen with those projects going forward? And when do we get our voice? You all have a responsibility of stewardship to your citizens. Please don't build. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please. On this person. Oh, excuse me. Pardon me. What? This? Oh, okay. 3 on this.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Ryan Smart. I am the Executive Director of the Florida Springs Council. The Florida Springs Council is the only statewide nonprofit advocacy group dedicated solely to the protection and restoration of Florida Springs. And like you, I care deeply about the health of Citrus County's waters. I'm concerned that the springs of the Crystal River, Kings Bay, Homosassa River, and Chassahowitzka River are already impaired by nutrient pollution because of previous land use decisions that may have seemed practical at the time, but are clearly irresponsible and inappropriate in hindsight. Because I care about the future of Citrus County's waters, I support the no-build option when it comes to the Northern Turnpike extension. In 2014, while running another nonprofit, I partnered with the Citrus County Chamber of Commerce, the Citrus County Chronicle, and the Economic and Development Council to provide a free day at Homosassa Springs State Park that about 3,500 people from all across Florida came to the park and spent money in your community. While planning that event, I fell in love with the waters of Citrus County, and I fell in love with the communities and people of Citrus County. So when I took over the Florida Springs Council, I moved our biannual summit from another county to Crystal River. We had that event in last month, actually, 3 days. We had several hundred people come, bringing tens of thousands of dollars of revenue to Citrus County. So I'm not just an environmentalist, I'm also a small business owner or a supporter that brings revenue into this county. There's no need to extend the Northern Turnpike into Citrus County, and no need to put Citrus County's world-class waters, the revenues they provide, and the local communities themselves into jeopardy. That is why I support the no-build option. And what do I mean when I say no-build? I don't mean Citrus County shouldn't grow and develop, because if you protect what's truly special about this place, your communities and your waters, you will grow. And you will need the infrastructure, including safe, efficient roads to support that growth. When I say no-build, I am speaking about the politically motivated and environmentally and economically irresponsible proposal to bring unneeded toll roads to a region of Florida that is defined by its waters, natural lands, and rural communities. There is a lot of talk in the paper and other places about having a seat at the table, but I urge you all to stand up and tell FDOT no build in our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we have the next speaker, please?
Good morning. My name is Gina Howe. I'm a Florida native and 24-year resident of Citrus County, and I'm here speaking on behalf of the Citrus County Airboat Alliance. I do have a letter on file. A toll road is a commercial enterprise, we know this, not the same as our local roads, which need to be repaired and maintained. Toll roads circumvent local businesses. They're designed to bypass congested areas, which could cause local businesses to suffer. The maintenance of the toll roads falls on who? Accidents could be caused by controlled burns, storms, fog. Local emergency services would have to be utilized, and the local taxpayers pay for those municipalities. The board most recently turned down FDOT's request to pay for lighting and maintenance on the Suncoast. Environmental impact. Swift Mud has already opposed all the routes, and what makes this county attractive to tourism and prospective new residents is the unspoiled nature and activities that we have to offer. People come here for the peace and serenity and its small town atmosphere. Protecting our aquifers by leaving our watershed lands undeveloped will preserve that natural resource that provides water to our area and Southwest Florida. Preserving wildlife and water resources should be a top priority for us. The Citrus County Airboat Alliance has a 92-year-old member and a longtime Citrus County resident who has a preserve in the Everglades named after him. The proposed southern route will go through his backyard. Now, how does that honor his legacy? As airboaters, we are uniquely aware of the beauty that this county possesses. We urge anyone who has not seen it by airboat to take that opportunity and do so. This county is at a turning point. one that could forever alter its uniqueness. We can embrace and enhance the beauty we have, or we could pave over it. I have over 3,000 signatures of Citrus County residents and airboaters who enjoy our nature coast and who oppose the Northern Turnpike extension. Citizens are becoming aware that this toll road was going to be supported by the BOCC without their knowledge. They were confused, and they confused it with the Suncoast Parkway. Everyone I have spoken to about it says they do not want it. From businesses to citizens, they agree it will destroy our county. A shiny new toll road isn't going to advance anyone's political career. The issue will not die before midterm elections, and we'll be watching it very closely. Please, please follow our Inverness City Council's wisdom and adopt a no-build resolution. Let's keep our county Florida's little giant, but without a toll road running through it. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Can we have the next speaker, please? By the way, excuse me, don't start time. Just a little update. We're running a little long. You might see commissioners get up from time to time to take a break. Just so you know, there's a speaker in the back, so we don't miss a word of what anybody's saying. So just so you're aware of that. So please go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Barbara Ocasio, and this is my beautiful daughter, my partner in crime, Mariana Ocasio. And there's just a couple things I want to mention. First of all, I sent you all emails. They all are the same if you compare them. I just put your names on them. And this is where we stand, no build. Okay. We went to the Dunellen meeting yesterday in the City Hall, and we met the mayor. Wonderful man. We invited him here. He came. That's awesome. So I'd like to also address the FDOT Turnpike extension people. They mentioned a few things, and I have a few answers. I'm sorry for my voice. It is so cold in here. I didn't dress properly. The hurricane evacuation. FEMA's first rule is what? Stay in place. Don't go nowhere. So why are we building these extra safe roads? The option number 5, no build. That is an option, and that's the option. I would say I'm being very generous. 90% of the people in this place say no, and I'm not just talking Citrus. I'm talking Levy, Sumter, Marion, and Citrus. Here we go. So we already have the amount of people saying no. Why do we need to waste money and go further, use that money to fix the roads we already have? We can just say, it's over, let's go. We can then go into putting it into law to stop this, because it's been coming up for 40, 50 years, every few years. In fact, in 1999, they put the brakes on it. A few years ago after that, they put the brakes on it. A few years ago in 2015, they put the brakes on it. And here we are again. Why? Again, my over 470 state roads. There's 67 counties. Say 5 county roads per each county, and many have more than 5 roads. That's well over 300 roads right there. We also have private roads, toll roads, highways, train tracks. We don't need no more roads. What we need is to fix what we have, stop the overbuilding, and save what we have. Thank you.
Thank you. And your assistant. Can we have the next speaker, please?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Kristen Rubin. I live in High Springs, Florida, and I'm the president of our Santa Fe River. I'm here because what happens in Citrus County affects the whole state of Florida. There is no documented need for this turnpike. The toll road will only incentivize and encourage sprawl, will destroy forever the cultural, the historical, and agricultural resources, and the natural resources that sustain this area. So please, take a moment and imagine. Close your eyes. Think about Miami. Put that in your mind. Or Tampa, or Jacksonville. And imagine what this area will look like. replace the image of this area as it is now with those images. And it will change it forever. Your landscapes and way of life will be permanently changed. The no-build option is the only option to save Citrus County and North Florida. Thank you.
Thank you. We have the next speaker.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Jim Tatum, 112 West Minnehaha Street, Tampa, Florida, and I speak for the nonprofit group Our Santa Fe River of Fort White. The earlier MCORs were motivated by personal greed by a few who stood to profit from this project. The plan was started as the pet whim of Bill Galvano and cronies to help lobbyists for the Florida Chamber of Commerce, Florida Trucking Association, and the Asphalt Contractors Association of Florida. It would especially help Thomas Patterfy, richest man in Florida, who wants to develop 561,000 acres in Lafayette, Dixie, and Taylor counties into a huge city in the middle of a rural paradise. It would also help Carlos Bariff, who wants to develop his land near the likely corridor. According to Craig Pittman, Mr. Bariff has already made money contributions to some of the Sumter County commissioners. These MCORs were severely voted down by popular consent. Only this remnant remains, perhaps because there is money to follow. Politics aside, there are many reasons to vote no build on this issue, but probably the most serious is because of water problems. Some on this board may not be aware that both DEP and SwiftMud are allowing our springs, rivers, and aquifer to decline in flow and purity at a consistent rate. This has been going on for decades and is not opinion. It is fact that can be verified. Building new road corridors will destroy wetlands, which are crucial to aquifer recharge and stream flow. Our state water managers admit that their water supply projections show that in the near future we will not have enough water for our current needs, let alone the development that this road would bring. A need for this extension has not been proven, but even if it were, we should follow existing corridors rather than blast out new ones, which would be much more destructive to all elements in its path. Several neighboring municipalities have had the wisdom, courage, and foresight to recommend no build as a no action. I strongly urge you to do the same. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Could we have the next speaker, please?
Hello, my name is Brenda Wells, and I am here as a representative of the Florida Springs Council, but also as a huge personal fan of what you have here. It's special, as you know, the short walk from the front door to this room. I saw the banner celebrating the Springs. I saw the exhibition that you have in town celebrating the Springs, and even the flag behind you. So I thought, you really understand what you have here. You get it. You know what you have to lose, what you stand to lose. Three things strike me about this toll road extension, and two of them come from FDOT itself. One is that there's no demonstrated need for this toll road. And the second is that the water quality, the effects on water quality will be what they say will be substantial. You know that your springs are already suffering and that there are a lot of people, us and other groups, that are doing their best to try to restore and protect those springs. And the third thing that strikes me about the toll road extension is the overwhelming opposition. As the communications director of our organization, I get so many messages from people, no matter what their background is or political affiliation or where they live, that are opposed to this and want to know more about it. So I ask you to support the no-build option. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have the next speaker, please?
Maxine Connor, Homosassa, Natural Resources Chair for Citrus League of Women Voters, requesting 5 minutes with authorization on file, please.
You're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. In your packet from Sierra Club are a set of slides which show a variety of environmental impacts for the proposed routes. All four of the alternative corridors would sever the Florida Wildlife Corridor and Southwest Florida Water Management District-owned lands. So Swift Mud wrote to the Northern Turnpike Enterprise stating they could not support any of the routes. All four corridors would bisect the existing recreational trails for walking and biking and would cut through FDEP Springs priority focus areas and impede springshed water flows, further stressing our limited water supply. Most of Citrus County is a spring shed. In Citrus County, we are blessed to have 3 first magnitude springs. Kings Bay, Crystal River, Homosassa, excuse me, and Chazawiska, all designated as outstanding Florida waterways by FDEP, and all, as previously mentioned, have impaired water quality. The Citrus County map shows Kings Bay Spring Shed, the Apopka Lakes, and Withlacoochee River and aquatic preserves. In Citrus, the Central Purple Route and the South Yellow Route both cut through Springs priority focus areas. Worse, the Central Route invades the outstanding Florida Springs area and the Crystal River Kings Bay area. Both citrus routes cross the Withlacoochee River and the Apopka chain of lakes. Aquatic preserves are just off the coast near the Central Purple Route. So the other springs maps show spring sheds to the north of us and in counties to north of us, in Gilchrist and Levy County and Marion County. It shows Fanning Manatee Spring Shed, Swanee River Basin, and Rainbow River Spring Shed in Marion County, and where the routes impact and go over those spring sheds. So roads have environmental impacts. During the 2021 legislative session, the Florida legislature unanimously passed the Florida Wildlife Corridor Act, which aims to recognize and protect lands of special concern for landscape scale conservation. The Conservancy of Southwest Florida map shows that all the routes would bisect and permanently sever this vision, reducing habitat and imperiling many species of animals and plants. They would drastically alter the hydrology and drainage for our region's springs, waterways, aquifer, and gulf. Vehicle emissions pollute the air and cause human health impacts. Massive amounts of paved impervious surfaces create polluted stormwater runoff which washes off into the waterways, fueling the toxic algae blooms that harm our economy here, the tourist economy and the coast and the Gulf, as well as the inland waterways and the springs. Massive clear-cutting of forests kills wildlife in their habitat and reduces genetic diversity. It eliminates trees and plants that absorb the carbon dioxide gas in the air, and the carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas which traps heat, and it warms the atmosphere and it warms the ocean. That heat expands the ocean and contributes to sea level rise. So we have a bad circle going on when you take trees and wildlife habitat down, because you lose a big carbon sink there. I mean no disrespect to the Northern Turnpike Enterprise presentation, but what I don't understand is how replacing countless square miles of natural habitat with impervious paved surfaces and bridges can improve water flow, or how dividing conservation lands and wildlife corridors can connect and expand them. The appeal of this area that we love is experiencing outdoor activities, and we all know that because we live here. And our local tourist economy depends on it. Please preserve our quality of life and local economy, and please pass a no-build resolution. Please urge FDOT, FDE to study transportation improvements to existing corridors like I-75, US 19, US 41, and others without creating any new greenfield highways. Please keep nature in the nature coast, because once it's gone, and I would like to very much thank you for having this workshop and the previous one. Special shout out to all of you. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. Okay, we have the next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Gina Summerfield. I moved here in August of 2010, and I moved over to Volusia County. That was the first place I stepped foot in. And always found myself coming to Citrus County and Sumter County and Marion County. We ride motorcycles, so we love the country roads. Well, it took me 12 years to get here, and I finally purchased a previous rundown, well, not rundown property, but it sat empty for a few years. I'd rather be part of the solution versus the problem. And if everybody just started buying these properties that are sitting empty versus building on vacant land and knocking our trees down and taking away from our wildlife. I think we should be part of the solution and not the problem here. And where I live right on 41, about a mile from Norval Bryant, and about 1.8 miles from 200. First week at our house, we heard a massive crash right outside of our park. We live in North Highland Estates. I think that we should really be part of a solution here and no build. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have the next speaker, please?
Hello. Thanks for having us. John DeVore, Pine Ridge. Trying not to reiterate all the good stuff that's been said already. I was involved in greater Cincinnati area, land use planning, landscape designer, all that stuff for many, many years. So this is not unfamiliar to me. And the main things I would just like to emphasize would be that what we need is great cities. Urban sprawl occurs because there's empty land. And this Turnpike just is a big run right through all kinds of empty land. That doesn't benefit any of us economically in our area in terms of creating jobs, better communities, etc. So the lady before was just talking about being part of the solution, and I just wanted to say that's what we need to do, and that is to make great cities. So whatever you all can do as commissioners to support the cities within our county, that's going to make it happen. That's being really a big part of the solution. I don't know exactly what those are. I know we have a comprehensive plan. Where land use planning falls down is when we have a plan and then we deviate from it, because the plans are made with good intent, and then oftentimes then there are the variances that come in, and it's usually developers and big money who come and push and make that happen. So my exhortation to all of us is to make a good plan and stick to it, give it teeth, because we can make great communities with a good plan, but not when we deviate from them. The one lady just said about working with what we have. I-75, 41, 27 are all U.S. highways. There's got to be both federal and, I don't know if there's state funding for that or whatever, but those are good options for addressing the 4 goals that this Turnpike had, which I appreciated the first speakers from Pine Ridge. None of the goals are met with this plan that they have. I don't, as a designer and planner, I don't see how any of them meet the design goal. So, lastly, I would just say, historically in Florida, as I understand it, real estate has been like the #1 economic driver. I realize tourism is, that's called our #1, but real estate development is not a sustainable economic driver until you just build on everything. So to just say, well, build more houses, et cetera, without a good plan, it's not sustainable. But what you guys are doing with your comprehensive plan, that's what we need. You stick with it. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Can we have the next speaker, please?
My name's Greg Garback, and I'm a resident of Citrus Springs. And I wanted to address the council, the board, on the issue of US 41. I just can't imagine that we're going to build this Turnpike extension and not put an interchange at the corner of 41. And so what I'm looking at is what needs to be done on 41. So that needs to be widened and all this in order to handle the traffic. So what are we going to do with Hernando when you guys, I mean, we want the traffic to go to Inverness too, right? To help support the businesses that were down there. So, all right, so the state hasn't addressed any of that, how they're going to widen the roads or do any of that stuff. Then, what about County Road 491? From Beverly Hills over to Holder, it's 2 lanes wide. We're going to be dumping a whole bunch of traffic right there, okay? So who's going to pay for that? How are you guys going to come up with a way to pay for that? It's a county road. So there's a lot of issues that come up besides what we're talking about with I-75, which is a federal highway. We've talked a little bit about that, but the big deal in my mind is we don't really need any of this stuff, because what we're talking about is urban sprawl. All right, that's exactly what this whole issue is coming to. Then the second point I wanted to make was what's going to happen to the businesses once we bypass Inverness and State Road 44. I mean, are those people that have those boat places, the marinas and all that, are they going to be able to survive the traffic bypass in them? I know one thing, that when I drive through a town on a 2-lane road, I may stop at a place to get gas, and then I see a restaurant across the street. I want to go there, okay? So anyway, I'm not going to do that anymore. We're going to go right on through on the freeway and never stop and see any of those businesses. So initially, you might think, well, this is going to bring a lot of business to our county. But I think in the end, what's going to happen is you're going to get the business eventually. But in the meantime, you're going to have to put up with a lot of places that run out of, they run out of gas and they're not going to make it. So my one last point that I wanted to make is I moved here from Detroit. And when I moved here, Interstate 696 had finally been built. A coalition of towns and cities along the route where Interstate 696 went. Very crowded, very congested area. They held off the building of Interstate 696 for 27 years. So you guys can do it. Lastly, I voted for a bunch of you guys when you came up for election last time. All right? I'm standing behind the no build, and I hope you'll go with that too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can we have the next speaker, please?
Good morning. Frank Coppachee, Homosassa River Alliance. Great to see you all again. I was just sitting here
Excuse me,
thinking, I really wasn't going
are you speaking on their behalf? You
Yes,
want
I
5
am,
minutes?
please. Homosassa, yes, please. Okay, thank you. I was just sitting here thinking back to the late 1940s and the 1950s, where I had the opportunity to run Citrus County. You talk about losing a hunting area, a fishing area. I saw that being lost, but we welcomed people from all over the country into Citrus County. Citrus County is going to continue to grow. It's going to grow. People love it here. We all are here for one reason: the natural resources and the environment that we have here in Citrus County. We can protect it. Now, during the late 50s, early 60s, the management of growth of Citrus County really failed the folks that were here at that time. We saw uncontrolled growth. We saw our lakes being degraded by trying to maintain the level of that water, where people could have waterfront property year-round, when our lakes naturally fluctuated during the summer season, which actually benefited our lakes. Okay, we saw our rivers and our springs be degraded, basically because of the human footprint. But that can change, and we're doing a good job. Right now, we're talking about restore, restore, restore. And that's what we're doing today. We're restoring a lot of things here in Citrus County that was basically put on the back burner years ago. Now with the road coming through, Citrus County is going to, like I say, going to continue to grow. If it grows with more roads, more subdivisions, or whatever, that's going to happen. We've got to manage it properly. Now, any road going through, any road or superhighway going through the Potts Preserve, 8,500 acres that support not only our lakes, but our rivers and our spring sheds, okay, will be destroyed. We can't let that happen. A road going through Potts Preserve is like adding one more nail to the coffin of Mother Nature here in Citrus County. How the roads go through, manage them properly, protect our environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have the next speaker, please.
Michael McGrath, Fort Myers, Florida. I'll be representing Sierra Club, Florida today. I believe I do have a letter on file. I don't anticipate to take the full 5 minutes because I don't want to belabor the points.
You're recognized for 5 minutes. Use what you want.
All right, very good. Well, anyways, Michael McGrath, I represent Sierra Club, Florida, and also our hundreds of members here in Citrus County, many of whom are actually here today as well. I want to, again, thank the board for having this forum, for entertaining public comment, for providing the opportunity for us to be able to speak to you today. I think something that, I think about when I'm attending a lot of these meetings for a while now is a question that I would have for FDOT is why is there not more information being shared at this point in time? We've had about 6 or 7 months now going into this project. And, the CIRC provided you guys some maps that looked at some of the environmental impacts to the natural resources within the region for the study area. And, we used FDOT's own environmental screening tool. Right, so the FDOT staff has the ability to share that information as far as the layers of, spring sheds, not just the springs themselves, the entire basins for FTP, spring priority focus areas, outstanding Florida waterways, aquatic reserves, aquifer recharge zones, the entire Florida wildlife corridor for both, existing conservation lands as well as priority projects, and as well as, the swift mud lands as far as, the particular parcels and district-owned lands for those that are already owned as well as future priority projects. So the question I'd be asking yourselves is why is FDOT not sharing more information with the public at this time, especially when this has been calendared for so long as well? We've known this meeting's been coming up, and then I would expect a little bit longer of a presentation than just 15 minutes going through a few slides that really don't go into much detail whatsoever. So I think the feedback that FDOT needs is a resounding no-build alternative from the Citrus Board of County Commissioners. And I just want to be clear as far as what no-build means, because I know there's been a lot of emotion thrown around that word. And for us, the no-build alternative really is about saying no to the Northern Turnpike extension. Right? I think it's a clear declaration that we need to have a no-build alternative for that proposal specifically. It does not mean no to other upgrading existing infrastructure within the county. That's something I think Citrus County really could use and should actually be prioritizing as far as how to indicate in its feedback to the Department of Transportation to build up its existing infrastructure as opposed to just building a new greenfield corridor. So with that, I'd like to just say that, I think the city of Inverness provides a pretty good template as far as, what Citrus County can emulate with as far as a no-build resolution. And I encourage you to look to what Inverness has done and also adopt your own no-build resolution. So again, thank you for your time. And again, thank you for having us as this entire forum.
Thank you very much for being here today. Could we have the next speaker, please?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Sandra Maxwell, and I'm representing the small African-American community in Hernando, where if the road goes through there, it's going to just kill it. And so I'm here representing them today, representing that you consider a no bill. We have in our community, which I'm here, nobody else came because they always feel that no one cares about them. So I'm going to just say a couple of things. In our community, and I grew up, I was born and raised here in Citrus County, and I grew up in Hernando. We are a very poor neighborhood. And that's why I guess nobody feel like nobody cares about them. But in our neighborhood, we have 3 churches. We have 2 cemeteries that's been there way before I was born. And we just want you to consider a no bill because it will have an effect on our community. For instance, if it did go through, where would they go? They are poor. They cannot afford to move. So, and there's a lot of elderly there. There's the young people are already gone, But we do need some improvements. We need to get together and talk about some improvements in our community. But if they build that road, the community will just be gone. And we have been there for a long, long time. So we're just asking that you will consider a no bill. And what everybody else said was great. But I'm just here representing Hernando, Florida. Okay.
Thank you very much. We're happy you're here today. Have the next speaker, please.
Excuse me. Hi, I'm Jasmine Lovingus, 14051 Southeast 8th Street, Williston, Florida. I'm here representing Levy, Williston, Sumter, and Marion County, because we aren't outsiders coming here, because what you people decide to do affects the whole state of Florida. And in fact, this really is a state issue, and more people across the state are becoming involved because they don't want to lose what little is left of rural Florida. I brought with you to see, in case you hadn't seen it, the Enterprise Florida ad for the future of the Sunshine State, okay? They're telling us, the commissioners, whoever, we need this road for traffic in Marion and hurricane evacuation to nowhere. And a lot of people are like wondering about it, and they're like, why? But meantime, worldwide, they are pumping very hard across the globe that there's 28 million rural acres available for the foreign developers. And their sales pitch is that it's cheap, low taxes, and less restrictions. And so it's like, come on, bring your poisons, bring whatever. And so it would just be really awful. I really hope you consider a no build, that we don't sacrifice our aquifer and what's left of rural Florida so that foreign developers, the only continent that doesn't have an office pumping, come to rural Florida and buy it up cheap and all that, is Australia. There's events, several days. If you go to the website, these flyers are being passed out across the state, thousands of them. Running my credit card up heavy for the ink. I don't care. People need to get the word. And as we hand them out, they're being handed out door to door to people everywhere, and they're going, what Turnpike? And so I really beg of you, because if you people say, well, we got to think about it, or we're not going to go with the no build, then you're truly not representing the people. You'd be representing the developers and FDOT, and the people clearly are begging for you to not ruin what is left. Because if you wreck the aquifer gets wrecked, we're done. We're done. And Nestle already got a big straw in it. We're in a big sandbar. It's porous. The poisons go in. The wildlife. We are animals too, and we wreck with wildlife. We're throwing off the whole balance of nature. So some businessman in Kenya or Singapore or whatever can bury his money in Florida. We should lose our homes, our communities, our whole thing to have this. And like you'll see, I'm going to give you a flyer. They want to put the turnpike right down the middle of the aquifer. Wars are going to be fought for water, and yet we would put it at risk. And like I told you before, do you want to be remembered by your family and your legacy that you helped save rural Florida? That's real progress. Or are you going to be remembered that you helped kill the nature coast? So I beg of you, please consider it.
Thank you very much. Your time has expired. Thank you.
And 1 second, real quick. I do want to give you.
You can give it to the clerk. Give it to the clerk, please. Next speaker, please.
My name is Lillian Boehner, Lecanto, Florida. Please stop the madness from ruining Citrus County.
Ma'am, you might want to back away from the microphone just a little bit. There you go.
You are in a
There you go.
position of saving Citrus County from ruin by urban sprawl. We are counting on you. In the past, our county leaders and growth managers have had the courage to say no. So developers built Brooksville and Ocala, and we were spared. We were all scared of what we see on the news daily. You have the power to slow the growth of our county. Please stop the madness. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have the next speaker, please?
Hi, my name's Clarence McMacken. I live on 7579 West Gum Street, and that's right where the bridge is going to be. So I'm part of the eminent domain. I've heard from like 20 different lawyers, but I haven't heard anything from the DOT. When this is going to happen, how this is going to take place, the rules. The thing about the people that live out there where I am, it's a sandy dirt road. I have 7 of the tortoises on my property. And in behind me is 40 acres of county land. And it's a breeding ground. All my neighbors have it. We've got turkeys. There was just 5 little chicks the other day ran across the driveway with a hen. I have no legacy if this goes through. I have no legacy to give to my children or my grandchildren. I worked for the government for many years. I was overseas for 6. I came back. And this, you know, I'm in my late 60s. How do you start over? You can't at this age in your life. When you buy a piece of property thinking that this is where you're going to retire and you're going to be there the rest of your life, and then just a few people are benefiting from this, it seems like it's a shame. And, you know, your council is, you know, we vote to get people like you to give our word and to pass our word on. And this is a pretty emotional thing for a lot of people because, you know, like I said, the environmental impact, nobody's ever come to my house. Nobody's sent me anything in the mail. But yet I see surveyors out on our road last month said that they gave them $10 million to survey the power lines, and they're doing drilling holes to see how many dump trucks of dirt they got to bring in. And my whole property is going to be wiped out. But, you know, everybody around that area are on very shallow wells. It doesn't only affect me, it affects everybody else because the average well is about 50 foot deep. So if they put this in, it's going to affect a lot more people than just myself. But I agree with the other man that was up here. We have no information. We you know, here we're involved. 20 lawyers send me information, but yet from the DOT we get nothing. And I think that's really shameful. I mean, at least, you know, they should give the people that's going to be part of the eminent domain a heads up saying, hey, next year, you know, we plan on buying your house and, you know, you might want to make plans.
Your time's expired. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And before we have the next speaker come up, just clarification, we're talking about the Turnpike extension, not the Suncoast Parkway. I can't imagine they're out building bridges on the, yeah, okay, so just so we're clear about the difference. Yes, go ahead, the next speaker, please.
Yes, Commissioners, welcome and thank you for having this hearing today. My name is Robin Orlandi. I'm from Dunellen, Florida. I grew up in Pinellas County, and as many of the other speakers have said, have witnessed the development, the 20th century solutions like road building that have destroyed so much of the old Florida that we cherish here in Citrus County. I'd like to urge you to adopt a no-build resolution, but more importantly, to realize what a jewel this nature coast is. We drove from St. Pete after having gone out of state and come back to Florida all the way up 1998 until I finally got to a place that I recognized as Florida. Rather than using 20th century solutions like road building, high-density development that we've seen don't work and are killing South Florida, think of this as an opportunity to adopt 21st century solutions that preserve the springs, preserve business. We can do this. There are models globally that show that it is possible to preserve our resources, our aquifers, our sea life, and the things that make this county great, and at the same time serve the needs of the residents that you've been elected to represent. Again, I'll keep it short. It's been a long meeting, but please adopt a no-build resolution and realize there are many, many people out there working that will partner with you to make this county continue to be as great of a natural resource and a home as it is now, long into the future, because we're pretty much the last generation in Florida that will be able to determine whether we preserve this coast or whether it turns into Pinellas County, Dade County. I lived in the Florida Keys many years. What we had in the Keys 30 years ago, it's gone. People still go there because they don't know that the reef is dead. They don't know that what used to be 200-foot visibility is gone. And our springs are here. They're stressed now. Please. This road serves no purpose for the people or the resources in the community. Please look to new innovative solutions that are sustainable and that help us all grow together. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good. Next speaker, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Anne Marie Sikorski, and my address is 328 Burley Avenue, Daytona Beach, Florida. I am part of 5 generations of Floridians. I was born and raised in Pinellas County, Clearwater. When I was born, Clearwater was still a town of less than 8,000 people. And as Mayor Wilson spoke earlier, I spoke at their meeting last night too, and I'm so glad he came. We asked him to please come. But anyway, there was distinct gaps, lovely wildlife woodlands between Tarpon Springs, Dunedin, Clearwater, Largo, Seminole, St. Petersburg. Now, you all live close by enough that you know exactly what Pinellas County looks like. And then it traveled further north, Hernando, and now it's knocking on your door. So I encourage you to adopt and support the no build. I now have been living in the Daytona Beach area for 21 years, and I've seen the similar activity take place between I-95 and I-4, meeting there, and other highways. All it's done is just completely sprawl completely towards Orlando. Now, FDOT was talking about connectivity. Well, I'm wondering what that actually means, connectivity to bringing urban to rural. I mean, why would you really want that? Unless it's for a business or economic reason. And that isn't really where your future, your good future lies, I think. And Commissioner Davis, you asked an excellent question. You said, who is behind this or driving this? And I don't believe FDOT gave you a proper answer whatsoever, because they know entirely. I mean, well, actually, they answered that it's the communities. If you recall, they answered the communities the cities are requesting this. Do any of you recall requesting FDOT to bring a turnpike? And I'm sure that would be an interesting question for other communities. All right, I have 8 seconds. They didn't bring this pamphlet. This is the relocation assistance pamphlet.
And your time has expired.
Okay,
Thank you
well-
very much. We appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here too.
yes.
And I appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you. We have the next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Nancy Phelps. I'm also I'm a resident of Pine Ridge in Citrus County, and I agree with most of the information that's been provided here from the speakers, and that I personally don't see any reason behind any of these corridors. But I just wanted to bring up, rather than reiterate all the effects it would have to our environment and to our communities. Just that someone did mention briefly that one other person mentioned that the population of our county is more than a third of 65 and over. So it's, according to the census from 2020, it's 36.7% of 65 and over. So, which means that a lot of our that group are retired. We have a limited source of income. If we're working, it might not be full-time, might not be in full-time positions, not a lot of income. And also the individual per capita, the median household income in Citrus County is $45,689. Per capita income in the past 12 months, which was 2020, Citrus County is $28,174. So and we've noticed by living here that the pay scale, the wages are very, very low as opposed to other cities, other areas of the state as well as the country. I was really kind of shocked when I was working part-time. The height of my income in a professional field was $15 an hour at this part-time job, where I've been in a profession for my whole lifetime. So the reason why I'm bringing that up is that not that we need more industry here to bring up that necessarily, but with our retirement age, most of the population, and then the low pay raises, and there's a 27-minute commute generally to a job, which is also in that census, the average commute time to people who are working. We can't afford toll roads to go back and forth to work every day, to pay a toll to go, say, if we're working in Orlando or Ocala or whatever, or going to Tampa. We like to go to Tampa on occasion, but it's like round trip is $14, $15 on the Suncoast Parkway every time we drive on that back and forth, and we can't afford another toll road to take us to another area that we don't really need to go, where there's plenty of other roads for us to get there. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else to speak? Yes.
I know you're thinking, please, no.
No, that's our job. That's what we're here for.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Sue Caruso. I recently moved to Fort White, Florida from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I am now nestled between the Itchituckney and the Santa Fe rivers, and that, along with my friends and family, makes me probably the richest person in this room. So I have been following this as a member of the Sierra Club for a long time, for I guess 3 years now, and I've attended many of the Turnpike meetings and listened in on several. So the idea about it mitigating hurricane pathways is kind of ridiculous. As previous speakers have said, it's better to shelter in place. Spend that money in these uncertain economic times on those shelters, if that's really how you want to help mitigate evacuation. Don't do it. Secondly, connectivity. I listened to that one. All the experts agreed, yeah, if you're laying cable while you're building this road, that's great. They also all agreed that that doesn't solve the real problem, that last mile. Getting that connectivity to my door in a rural area in a dirt road. So that's a moot point as well. But the other reason I feel I have a dog in the fight is the real reason these roads are being built. DOT's plan in 2016 was to widen 75 and the Turnpike, not to build new roads through rural areas. That came from our legislators. They're not planners. They don't have any experience. They said you need roads, and we all know why. The other two Turnpike, the other two MCORS areas are gone. This is the one area that still will benefit the richest man in the state. Follow the money. You all know that's the line, and unfortunately, that is so true. So, given the fact that our legislature over the last few years is handcuffing local governments to the benefit of developers, I hope you'll take this chance while you still can and tell our legislator, no build. We respect. You can't conflate development with progress. Progress means an improvement in the quality of life, and that's what you have here. So please maintain that for not just the people of these 4 counties, but for all of the state of Florida to say, this is what we value. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak? Yes, sir.
That's fine. Frank Papson, Hernando. I've been sitting here listening to all these different comments, and I'm not going to go anywhere near what they said, even though I agree with the majority of what was said. I come here with questions that I know you won't answer here, but questions that should be thought about yourselves. What benefit does Citrus County get with this road? Does does the financial impact that road's going to have on this community, because in lost revenue, you're going to lose money from real estate, you're going to lose money from businesses. I imagine that you think that further development will replace this money that you're going to lose. But then again, in the meantime, it's going to be an increased burden on the citizens that live here now. Our city is growing, or our community is growing, the county is growing right now at a pretty good pace from what I understand. And the major thing that we need is for our own roads to be improved. Some of these roads are really, I live in Arrowhead, we have no roads, we got nothing but dirt. But there are other roads that we use, and 200, for example, needs to have a lot of work done on it. 491 needs to have work done on it. You bring this highway in, and you're going to have more traffic coming in, and it's going to be using these roads, because this road doesn't go anywhere. It just dumps it here in Citrus County. And who knows how long it's going to take for them to turn around and build this road out of this area. The only one that is benefiting is Tampa, as far as I'm concerned, because the only thing that I see could happen is people from Tampa can move into our community and commute back and forth, because it's a lot cheaper to live here than it is to live in Tampa. So there's, improving their community at our cost. And I hope you really can reconsider your thoughts on doing this connector. And if I'm not mistaken, we were up here before with the same thing, saying the same thing, and it's like repetitive. Please reconsider. Don't build. Thank you.
Thank you. And for the record, the Board of County Commissioners has never considered this issue before. This is the first time. So, yes, next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Donna Barrett. My husband and I are residents in Citrus Hills. This October, they're going to start sewer project in our neighborhood. We have no say in whether we want it or not want it. It's coming. It's going to cost each individual house between $10,000 and $20,000. This is all to protect our water, the water of the nature coast. We can't do if there's anything we can do to keep the nature coast, we got to do it, please.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Any other public comment? Third and final time. Okay, I'm going to close down public comment. I'm going to make a couple general comments to get the discussion going. Then I'm going to recognize Commissioner Carnahan, because he has a very important event he has to depart from. And then we'll continue with board discussion. Just so folks know, at the end of our discussion today, I'm hoping we'll give the county administrator some direction, which might consist of A, does the Board of County Commissioners have a position that they want to present, and B, what would that position be if we do? So commissioners, if you can be thinking about that while we start our discussion. First of all, let me say this. Thank you all very much. We've had many, many public hearings and workshops here. This has to rank up there with one of the best, most civil, some of the most informative information that's come forward from a group of citizens in a long time, and it's really appreciated in the way that you presented it. I do want to say a couple things. This is, for this board, may be the most important issue that this board will face. In my long time here in Citrus County, I was a young person when I first moved here and had hair and dark hair and all that. But one of the first things that came up for me was the acquisition of 3 Citrus Springs. It was a very big issue. And at that time, people said this is going to have long-term generational consequences. And it did. The next thing was the Suncoast Parkway. And as we know, that was talked about for many, many years. So I just want to say what I'm going to say here, and then, we'll go on. First and foremost, FDOT their primary job is to move people and freight. That's what they're told to do. They do that very well. And in Citrus County, FDOT has been a great partner to work with. A lot of the projects, a lot of the money that's being spent in Citrus County is because of their partnership with the county. So that, regardless of whatever position our board takes, that is not, for, against, support, or whatever against the organization itself. They do what they do very good. I just came back from a trip up north. I can tell you, in the 8 states I traveled to, Florida has the best highways and roads of any of the states I traveled on. So let me just say this. When I was in the debate with the Suncoast Parkway that started 30 years ago or whatever, I was on the side that was debating the folks that were against the Suncoast Parkway. And I defended, even that long ago, the need for the Suncoast Parkway and for what it needed to do. And I'll tell you, at that time, probably as I went throughout the community, just like now, this was a very big issue. But the majority of the people that contacted me and came up to me, not everybody, but the majority supported the Suncoast Parkway. And when it was continued, the majority of the people that came up to me supported the Suncoast Parkway. I have to tell you, on this issue, I have not had one single person in all of Citrus County come to me and say they support the extension of the Turnpike, okay? So this is an entirely different animal from the perspective of we planned for 20, 30 years for the Suncoast Parkway, lobbied heavily to get it done. It was well thought out. People knew it was coming. So in my mind, and those of you that know me, I tend to try to gather all the data, not make up my mind. But I can tell you, as I sit here today, that it would be very difficult for me to be able to support the building of the extension of the parkway on any of those 4 routes at this point in time that would have any effect on Citrus County, particularly the 3 that would impact Citrus. And I know we're just here to discuss and give direction and see if we can come to some kind of agreement today. But I think the evidence speaks for itself. I think FDOT sees a need, or they wouldn't be doing it, but I think our position is the need might be premature. It might be 30 or 40 years from now. And as we talked earlier, the citizens today don't want to be dealing with the issues so that might be necessary. And again, the Suncoast Parkway served one mission, where the mission of the Turnpike extension, I don't think, serves the same mission, in my opinion. And again, this is just my opinion. So, commissioners, from where I sit up here today, once again, listening to all the data, all the information, and there are 3 of us up here sit on the MCOR's task force as well, too. So this is purely a quality of life issue. That's the way I see it. We need roads. We need good roads, but we also need to protect what we have. And I just think at this point in time, this issue hasn't been vetted enough to answer all the concerns. If we even had a split of the community 50-50, then we could say, okay, well, there's some legitimate questions, whatever, out there. But frankly, folks, I'm not hearing that. So, commissioners, that's where I am. Commissioner Carnahan.
Well said. First thing, I want to also say thank you to FDOT. They have worked tremendously with Citrus County. We have gotten a tremendous amount of money to fix the local roads. I think, as most of you know, I'm a no-build, period. I sat on MCORs. To me, there's many other options, 75. There's many other existing corridors that can be upgraded, that can move the people, but we don't need that in this county. I don't like any of the corridors. Then I also work very closely to my colleagues to the north, my commissioners to the north, Marion County on different boards we sit with during the state. I'm going to back them also, along with my local officials. Inverness has taken a stance, and I totally agree with them. And then some other good points that were made. All the money that's being spent in our waterways to get them back to where they should be. When I was a young child on Kristen River in Homosassa, and can enjoy the springs bubbling up. Last thing we need is any recharge area on the east side being affected, because it affects the west side also. So again, I don't like any of these corridors. I'm going to side with my other colleagues and commissioners and other local elected officials that no build at this time, and find the existing corridors, make them better, make them move the people like they should, and so I'm a no.
Thank you, Commissioner Carnahan.
And with that, I would hope that this board would draft a resolution for no bill to give to FDOT.
Okay, great. And just so people know, if we give that direction today, that'll come back at a future meeting to be voted on, and of course, we'll have a public hearing for that. Commissioner Slabaugh?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate FDOT and what you're doing. You're following direction, and you're doing it very well. I appreciate all of you that came here to speak today. I took a lot of notes. I've met with many of you. I've spoken to a lot of the citizens of Citrus County. And so as a native Floridian, 27 years here in Citrus County, I have personally seen what works and what doesn't work. And we're leading in the state for our restoration programs, and we should be very proud of that, protecting our waterways. We need to, historically, we've seen this happen, and I forgot your name, but you really touched me because this has been on my mind for quite some time, but we need to protect our economically vulnerable areas, historical areas like Hernando, as well as our environmentally sensitive areas. The demand that this would bring to our infrastructure is a huge concern for me. Until this is addressed, I don't believe we can handle being a future evacuation route. I don't see this route through Citrus County would be a financially feasible situation for any of us, and I do believe that this would bring more of a local tax burden on us taxpayers. Protection of our county is a big responsibility that we all here take responsibility for very seriously. I hear you, I've heard you, and so I cannot support the Northern Turnpike extension coming through Citrus County. And that is with the information provided to me, so I would be a no for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis, you want to go?
Sure. Couple of housekeeping things first. I got a lot of notes. First off, the gentleman with the Florida native plants prescribed burn. I love to hear new data that I've never considered before, and that's a newbie for me, so I really appreciate that. Didn't even think about that. Little housekeeping issues. If by any reason this does happen to go through, because I know all y'all think that we are all powerful. We're not necessarily. There's been a lot of panic strewn about the roads coming through, like right now, and you're going to have your house taken. They do pay 125%, I believe, of appraised value, and we are so many years in the future on this. I'm about to make y'all happy, so just bear with me. The person who said capacity is good till 2045, how many times have we sat in traffic on interstate in a city and gone, you know, they should really plan ahead better on this. So to my mind, they are planning ahead, and I do thank our transportation officials for that. Road funds are different. The Turnpike roads would not be used to fix our own local roads or sidewalks. And one other last piece of housekeeping, I own exactly one piece of property in anywhere, and I live in it. So I have absolutely nothing to gain by any decisions. Now I'm about to make y'all happy, so bear with me. You need to know I am at least a third-generation Floridian. My grandfather was a turpentine farmer in North Florida. I was a tomboy. I spent all of my childhood out in the woods bringing critters home, much to the dismay of my mother. In 1978, my family retired to Crystal River. We lived on the river. I had my boat. I went in and out of Three Sisters Springs all by myself. I now chair the Tourism Development Council, so I remain both very proud of the fact that my hometown is now internationally known, but also kind of aghast that I don't have Three Sisters to myself anymore. After that, I became a horsewoman. I own farms. I was sweating out in the humidity this morning, taking care of my ponies. So even though I show up dressed for work, I am actually that kind of girl. I am a rescue certified diver. My happy places are in the woods or in the water. Okay, so I am very much concerned about these things, as are you. Please note, I bring my water everywhere. I do not drink out of plastic bottles if at all possible. So actually my actions prove my beliefs.
Now, let's talk about the flip side. I saw firsthand the challenges of aging. We are an older county, okay? It sucks to get old. Everybody here knows that. I'm 55 and I already know that when I have to roll out of bed aching. Okay, you have a limited amount of income, you don't know how long it's got to last, you don't know how long you're going to live or what kind of challenges are going to come your way. I am the poster child for the need for high wage development in this county because I was an official smarty pants when I graduated from high school. I left to get a university degree and I was a high wage earner outside this state. I was super fortunate that I was able to blow up my life and come back in my early 40s to take care of my mom because she had dementia. And I was here with her for 4 years, working from home, still making good money, but able to take care of my mom. Most of your kids and your grandkids are not able to do that, okay? They cannot blow up their lives with all their responsibilities, at least not easily, to come back to Citrus County when you need them. So economic development is immensely important in this county. We have to get some high-wage jobs. Even if your kids and grandkids are never going to move back here, your medical workers, the ones that show up on not just show up in an EMS ambulance, but also when you get to the hospital, if you want doctors and nurses there ready to take care of you, guess what? A lot of those folks, those are highly educated folks, a lot of them are married to other highly educated folks that are not in the medical field, and they can't get a job here. So the medical professional is not going to accept a job here. Okay, so all of this is tied together. That's the really hard part about this job, that I can be nobody else come in here, no roads, no anything, keep it the way it is, etc. But I have to take into consideration balance. So good medical care tied to other high-wage jobs, which is then in turn tied to regional transportation. We just went through hosting some site selectors, and that was still to this day is one of the biggest issues for Citrus County for bringing clean manufacturing, things that would not harm our environment here, is regional transportation. Lastly, I ran for the purposes of strategic long-range planning in this county, and we started that plan recently, and the overwhelming consensus is that Citrus County is where nature and community thrive. Okay, and I am fully in agreement with that. That is environment and that is our small town charm. So I'm going to do my darndest to protect that while still trying to figure out how to get high wage jobs here. So at this point in time, to make y'all happy, I do not feel that the transportation authorities have proven the need. And I would have very serious concerns if they prove the need for the state as a whole, that they also need to prove that it would help us in Citrus add higher wage jobs, and it would still absolutely protect our watershed, our aquifer, our environment, and everything else. And that is a very, very big nut to crack. So as of right now, I am a no build.
Hey, thank you. Commissioner Kennard.
Thank you. I will... I'm going to start off by agreeing with you, Commissioner Kitchen, that I haven't had a single individual contact me and say, you need to do this, we need to support this. However, with that in mind, you see the public input that we're getting. I actually, and everybody, please do not, I hope that you don't misinterpret this, but I'm sure it's going to be misinterpreted. I would actually like to see this board not take a position at this point. And here's why. We're getting, each time this comes up, we're getting more and more input. The delay to the legislature the report to the legislature has been delayed. The legislature did fund a full study to be done. These are just 4 routes that we may not necessarily agree with at this point, but a possible resolution to come out of this is the expansion of existing corridors. Don't build one of these routes, but expand existing corridors. expand 44, expand, 441, expand these roads. Those are possible outcomes that I think many of us would find desirable. If every governing entity in this study area takes a position to stop this right now, we don't want anything being done here, then the legislature and DOT very well could go, fine, we're not going to study any of it, we'll go do our own thing. I've actually reversed course on this a little bit. Over the weekend, I had put a lot of thought into wanting this board to stake out a position. This morning, before today's meeting, I heard that the DOT does not own any additional right-of-way along 75 through the corridor of Ocala to Gainesville. I don't know if that's true or not, but I heard from somebody who knows an awful lot about transportation said that's not an option. If that's not an option, we've still got trouble. I didn't hear nearly enough discussion about MCORS and the final report that MCORS process produced. We also heard a lot of misinformation, and that's concerning as well. The misinformation was that 2 of the MCORS studies have gone away. That's not true. One of them has definitely gone away. One of them we're talking about here today, and one of them was modified to take it to 19 instead of straight up to I-10. We also heard that this used to be called the Coastal Connector. That's not true. The Coastal Connector routes were part of the Suncoast Parkway, not the Turnpike. We heard the BOCC is going to approve this without you knowing. That's not true. We have been saying all along we want more public input. We want to hear, because this is, as you said, this is something that and we had one of our speakers say, this is something that once it's done, it's there for the remainder of time, that you can't go back on this. So we have asked for a tremendous amount of public input. Without the, one last thing. At my favorite board meeting last week, the Water Authority board meeting, it was discussed that the city of Wildwood had a population of 21,000 a year ago. By 2050, it's projected to grow to more than 130,000 from 21,000. That's a lot of people right there at that intersection. DOT is going to have to do something to move all of those people. I don't want them moving through 44 and through Inverness and across our county, but DOT is going to have to do something to move all of those people. The only reason I bring that up again is that I think that that we need time to gather more public input. I would like to have us have more detailed discussion on the MCORS final discussion points. And then, we've still got plenty of time before November, because I would like for you and Commissioner Carnahan, both sat on MCORS, have both been here through all this. I would like for this board to take a position before the 2 of you are done on this board. So that's my position, and again, I hope it's not misinterpreted. I'm pretty sure it will be, but I hope not.
Well, Commissioner Kennard, what about this? Again, not to put words in your mouth, I think we need to do one or the other, or to some degree, we need to take a position, whatever that is, even if our position is not to do anything now, but to sit and wait. But in my mind, I have no problem with more discussion on the most northern connector. But in my mind, sitting here today, I don't see any way ever I'm going to be able to support the 3 ones that go through Citrus County.
Right.
So and I think that's what I was hearing from Commissioner Carnahan before I left, and we can hear from the other commissioners. So if we wanted to ask staff to draft a resolution, which might do both, and that is, it won't slam the door entirely on a discussion of it, but it also sets out that we have no interest in this time seeing it, coming through Inverness and Pine Ridge and et cetera, et cetera. That's my thought. What do you think about that?
What about asking DOT, and I don't even know if it's possible. First of all, you know what? Thank you to the folks from the Turnpike here. You didn't have to sit and listen to all of this. We asked you to come and give a presentation, and whether or not you wanted to stay is up to you for. So thank you for staying through all this and hearing everybody's. I saw you writing incessantly through all the public comments, so thank you. Maybe a resolution to ask them to discontinue studying the southernmost 3 routes, something along those lines.
I could support
So,
that. yeah.
so maybe looking at expanding, existing corridor stuff like, because the money is there to study how they're going to move all these people. I would like to encourage them to continue to study how they're going to move all these people, but just take these 3 routes off of their study.
As they did with 19 by widening 19 and expanding that as well. So.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Yes, Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, to clarify my position, and first off, I want to, as long-winded as I was, Ms. Sandra, I do care, and I believe Jennifer from FDOT will remember last year when they had open house hearings. I pulled her aside. I said, by the way, the southernmost route through Inverness and Hernando, over my dead body. That was my exact quote. So that's just a non-starter for me. It would destroy historic Hernando in your neighborhood. It's just not, that one is just to my mind, it's so, such a long shot that feels like something they put in there as a throwaway, So we have something to win on, basically. The second most southern one, I have grave concerns about a 3-way interchange somewhere in Citrus County over between 19, 589 and the Turnpike. So that one is pretty awful to me as well. But I do agree with Commissioner Kennard and Kitchen saying that I do think we need to keep the conversation going with FDOT, but I've laid down a pretty big challenge in terms of what I would need to be able to support anything to do with the Turnpike. I do prefer the 75 widening option, but obviously that's outside my county, so of course I'm going to prefer that. And, I guess that's enough.
Okay. Commissioner Slayback, anything else? Can you support any of that?
I think my question might be just to you, is could you just tell me where it left off with MCOR and there's support for or against this, or what? I wasn't.
Okay, I don't want to put words in. I'll let Commissioner Kennard speak to it if he needs to as well, but I think that the basic summary was, the final finding was, at this time, we can't come to a consensus. That, all the information was good, but I think the final thing, and correct me again, Commissioner Kennard, the emphasis was find ways to expand existing throughways or whatever without going into new areas and creating new roads. Wasn't that pretty much the summary, that as much as possible they thought that was what needed to be done?
It outlined the areas that were absolute no-goes, areas that if you absolutely need to, or areas that were preferred, for a corridor. The preferred areas were essentially, no new greenfield development, utilizing existing right-of-ways, co-location with existing routes, things like that. It is a good document that had quite a broad spectrum of voices and opinions on that board that really worked to funnel down over a period of, what was it, 16 months, something like that.
10 years.
And come up with the one document for the Suncoast Parkway and then the other one for the Turnpike extension. But there's good stuff there. They didn't lay out a specific corridor. It was just the Marion County Commission's position on this Turnpike extension, I think closely mirrors the result in the MCORs. if I understand their position as they came out with this. Essentially, we want to remain in the discussion, but make sure that you understand this area is a no-go, this area is, pay close attention to our comp plan, things like that.
Okay, so, thank you. I'm sorry, I thought you were on part of the.
I was,
Oh.
but I just tried to give the short version of that since we're going to.
Okay. We're all three of you were on MCOR at one point. Okay. So, I don't like any of the routes through Citrus County. And what I'm hearing you say, and please correct me, is that if we just say no to this, then we won't have any input in the discussion, and they might come through our county anyway. I mean, what were you saying, Commissioner Kennard, about that? Like, you want to still be part of the conversation, and you think if we do some kind of resolution that we would be taken out of the conversation?
Well, make no mistake about it. DOT does not want to come through town with a road and face a local battle every step of the way. But they don't need local support to build roads where they think they need to be. We have an absolutely fantastic relationship with DOT. And I think giving our position, our opinions, that we want them to keep studying how they're going to move people, both locally and regionally. We want them to continue that study, but we want these three routes off the map.
And then my final statement would be, I remember 75 being built in Sarasota County. I experienced that. My husband's, where he grew up, was affected by 75 coming through Sarasota County. I think that I appreciate what Wildwood is going through, but even as far back as I think the early 80s, there was discussion about making a route from Wildwood to Lebanon Station, and that would alleviate what's happening on 75 and Wildwood, and it doesn't affect Citrus County. So I would be, love to see that still happening. But I am going to take the counsel of the two elder commissioners here that I don't feel comfortable with it coming through Citrus County, and so my vote would be no. So how do you get me to where?
Well, if I may, I think he has.
Okay.
Because it seems to me the linchpin here is the three southern corridors that come through Citrus County. And I've heard us all say, to some degree or another, no, or we're no fans of that, or whatever.
Okay.
So let me throw this out. If we were going to ask staff to put together a resolution to bring back to us at a further meeting to vote on, what I'm hearing is continue the study, but leave and include improving existing roadways, wherever that may be, but take off the three southern corridors proposed through Citrus County. I mean, that's kind of what I'm hearing everybody say. Does anybody disagree with that?
And you mean, you're saying the yellow is the most south?
Right, this is the only one that would stay on the red one.
Okay, I can agree with you.
Yeah, okay. Commissioner Kennard?
No, I'm good.
Commissioner Davis? Just a second.
I'm not necessarily opposed to Northern B, but I haven't really studied it, and I'm looking at it going around to Nellen, so I would say I probably agree with you on that only the northernmost.
At this point in time, just so the public understands, if you looked at the map, there's, most of them, they're red. It's the most northern route, which does not impact or go through Citrus County. So I think what you're hearing us say is that we would ask the state to not include further pursuing those three northern routes. But we want them to continue to look at what they need to look at to move people and freight, and including improving local roadways, which could include ours, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yes.
The northernmost route that I'm looking at does not come into Citrus, I mean, the Northern B, the second one down, the blue route does not come into Citrus at all.
Well, but that's the one that kind of impacts Dunellen and close to Dunellen. And
Right.
and I think that, you know, that's why we were kind of including Dunellen and everything in that same group. So
Okay.
and I think we go back to what Commissioner Carnahan said by listening to what our surrounding neighbors and municipalities, including Dunellen, had to say. So, and again, this is just our point. Like Commissioner Kennard said, this is nothing written in stone, but I can tell you, is like you said, it's a partnership that we have to work on, because roads have to be built. They're going to impact somebody, so we need to work with FDOT to have the least amount of impact. But I think getting out in front of them saying it's going, and I've said this before to people, it's going to be a very, very heavy lift to try to get those 3 corridors through Citrus County. I mean, that's just the way I see it. Now, again, after November, I won't be here, and whoever else is setting up here can deal with that. But, and I'll tell you why this is important, folks. I just told you, 25, 30 years ago, they started talking about the Suncoast Parkway. When they started back in '99 or whatever, to a continuation of it, we had roomfuls of people like this saying, when does the public get its say? When does the public get to say? And the answer was the public had its say, and it was like 10 years before that. And that's because once the Board of County Commissioners generally says we support it, that's what goes, you know, that's what they consider local support. So I think we're listening to the community, we're listening to the data, we're gathering information, we'll continue to do that. So Randy is at a meeting that I was supposed to be at, but I think he'll make my apologies for that. So I'm going to ask the attorney if she understands what we're talking about, since I assume she is going to have some degree of drafting this.
Perhaps.
Yes, so Madam Attorney?
So the way I'm understanding it is you would like the resolution to state that you are no build as to the southern 3. However, request that they continue to explore the northern.
I would say, well, I think what he originally says, continue studying.
Oh, continue study. Let me get that right.
Mhm.
And then improve or expand any existing.
Yeah, I think so.
That's my very short summary,
and it's a
but
good start.
I'll add
you know.
fluff.
And, well, we may tweak it when it comes back to us at the meeting. We'll take more public input. We may tweak it. We may, but we have to have a starting point. So, how's everybody? Everybody good with that?
Yeah, I think attorneys specialize in adding fluff, don't they?
Yeah. Well, but she doesn't
Substance,
get paid by the hour. No, actually,
by the word. I don't get paid by the word.
I like things that are specific. So that I think attorneys put things in that are specific. So, okay. So, so commissioners, have we any more information to give to our attorney for drafting this resolution? Will it be a resolution? Is that what we're going to? Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Can you keep the talk down the audience? Thank you.
I understand you to be requesting a resolution.
That's what we're looking for, right? Okay?
Yes.
All right, very good. So we're going to ask the attorney to draft that and work with the the county administrator, and that'll be on a future agenda, which will be advertised. And I just want to announce then our next meeting will be actually at 1 o'clock, which will convene our regular Board of County Commissioners meeting. So if you all want to grab lunch and come back and spend the afternoon with us, you're invited to do that. One more time, I do want to thank you all for being here, for the information that was shared, for the commissioners' wisdom and discernment on this matter, and for the clerk keeping us on track. Appreciate that. So we are adjourned until 1 o'clock.